Hold the presses. This
Are
just
you
in,
kidding me?
ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Millionth Show. My name is Henry. I'm joined once again by James and Tom, and we're reviewing Tomorrow Never Dies, released in 1997, directed by Roger Spottiswoode. So this is an interesting Bond film, I think. I mean, we did The Rock previously, and then GoldenEye
Mm.
before that. So, I mean, personally speaking, right off the bat, I would like to say I kind of prefer this to GoldenEye already. I don't know about you two, but
It's interesting for me. Tomorrow Never Dies is like, I think it's a very solid Bond film, and I think individually it's probably Pierce Brosnan's best, outright performance as Bond. What I like about Tomorrow Never Dies, it doesn't try and do anything too
Mm.
extreme or ambitious. I mean, it has its moments, of course, but
oh yeah,
I think it's a solid Bond film. It's not like one of the elite ones, but it's not bad either. It's a
yeah.
pretty well put together Bond film, I would say. It's paced well. It's over so quickly. It's like less
Mm.
than 2 hours long, which is just perfect for a Bond film. Just like just the 2 hour mark
Just
is just
right,
what you
yeah.
need. And yeah, I really, I mean, it's not a film I've watched very many times, but I never complain watching it. I'm like, this is good,
Yeah.
And actually, I watched it and I forgot like a whole chunk of the film. I think it's in Thailand when it happens.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm like, wow, this is great.
And
Mm.
what do you think about it, Tom? Because I know that you probably have the strongest opinions about this, as in terms of I
Yeah,
remember you liking this one quite a bit.
You like it?
I did like it a lot. I had a period where I liked it a lot, but since then, like
It felt.
I kind of liked GoldenEye a bit more because this I don't know, like the thing with this film is like it's good, it's really easy to watch, but
Mm.
it's there's not much that differentiates it from a generic action film in my opinion. um and like just in my opinion, but like, and I think it has a really good villain, and I think it has
Mm.
some
Yeah.
really good characters, and it has probably one of the most overrated characters I want to speak about,
Oh, I
like
know who you're
later.
gonna say.
Yeah, that's the part
Are you gonna rip into anyway?
that's
Well,
the part of the film I feel strongest about.
Dr. Kaufman.
Yeah,
oh man,
the
yeah.
greatest
Dr. Kaufman,
performance
my
of.
favorite.
We'll get to him though. Yeah. What about
Well,
you, Henry?
exact for me. Well, I think I share similar sentiments to both of you, but I think this film's two biggest strengths are it's actually three biggest strengths: well paced, good
Mm.
soundtrack. I mean, for the most part,
Yeah, it's pretty good.
and the villain, of course.
I think the
Uh,
whole cast is actually pretty good. I mean, it's not A list, but
well, you've
I
got
think the
Michelle Yeoh,
characters are
who,
excellent. Obviously, Elliot Carver. Is it Paris Carver as well?
yeah,
Yeah,
Paris, right? She's great. Wei Lin is great.
yeah,
I was never too hot on Wei Lin when I was younger, but watching the film yesterday, I was like, damn, she actually really puts in a good performance, and she's actually a really good Bond girl. I mean, but almost because she's not a Bond girl, and I was thinking about it. I think this is probably the last pretty good Bond girl that we ever get. I think this
hmm.
this is the last time where I'm like, yeah, I really like I like this
she.
Bond
But
girl,
you know, you've
and
got
yeah,
Jinx soon.
yeah. Well, I
You
think
get.
for me, I think objectively speaking, which is hard to do with Bond, especially with our like history with it. But objectively speaking, this is probably edges it as Pierce Brosnan's best Bond film. But obviously, it's not my favorite. So
Yeah,
we'll,
yeah.
we'll
The best and the favorites are never usually they don't usually align with Bond.
Yeah.
mm,
But still,
Uh,
well, if
that's
we
what
can
we're here for.
get right into it because this is
Yeah,
quite
let's
a
do it.
straightforward film, I feel. What we go with the opening title sequence, which I think is supposed to take place either in like Chechnya or some like it's just like some terrorist arms dealing,
It's
place.
like
that's all you need to
some
know in
wasteland
the
in Russia, I
90s.
thought,
Yeah,
right?
some like
Yeah.
ex-Soviet thing, or
Yeah,
I don't
like
know.
Alaska. No, not Alaska.
Yeah, Alaska.
Siberia or some shit,
Yeah,
man.
that'd be very long
It's
ago.
just like every country America doesn't like is there.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's like, oh well, half the world's terrorists are here and they're all just doing their shopping, like
That's right. Yeah.
and like yeah, you got this like you got M, in the briefing room, and
Mm.
she's like, oh yeah, we've got our man in there and all that. And then like you got this admiral who's set up to be like the punch bag for this entire film.
I wonder how tempted they were to make him another American character, but they were
Oh
like,
man.
I think they held back this time, but they still had like poked fun at the CIA,
Oh yeah,
which I
yeah, of
loved.
course. he like
They
he's
never
going,
miss a chance to have a little jab at the Americans, man. I love
yeah,
that.
he's going on
Mm.
like, oh, we need to blow them up all now, and they've got a British ship right next to it for some reason, but I guess whatever. So they like launch a missile, and then 10 seconds later, the camera changes, and they're like,
Mm,
oh, whoops, guess there are some nukes here, which they somehow got a hold of, and then they're like, oh, make a joke about Russians not being able to keep
yeah, yeah,
weapons
yeah.
locked
Lock
up
it
or
up,
something.
yeah.
What was that a specific reference to? Is
Well, after the USSR fell, a lot of the high grade weapons went missing suddenly.
oh, okay.
But then again, I mean, the US has accidentally dropped nuclear bombs quite a few times,
Oh
which is,
yeah, and they leave like an Apache. Did you see the video on Twitter of like an
oh yeah,
Apache attack helicopter? No, it was a Black Hawk actually got
yeah,
left.
yeah, yeah. They've left
Yeah.
plenty of stuff in Afghanistan all over the place. But hand me downs, I guess. Maybe it's
As
like,
Max Zorin might say, a convenient coincidence.
yeah, maybe
Yeah.
just like compensation for the history. Anyway,
Yeah.
I
so
do like how it sets up what's his name, Mr.
Henry
Gupta,
Gupta.
for later.
Yeah.
Mm.
He
Well,
he
it's like
actually
5 seconds, but like it's like,
yeah,
yeah,
I
look at
know.
that red box. That's important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he I like how he actually had a lot of deleted scenes from the film. I don't know if
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
about
I've seen
that.
Yeah, I
He
think I saw one. That rings a bell,
one of
you
the
know.
cards.
yeah, and there's actually a really good one I'll bring up later, or if I remember. But yeah,
Yeah, he would definitely be like a Discord moderator, today.
Oh yeah, man. This is again like I said this about GoldenEye and again with this film, how like it's pretty impressive how ahead of the curve Bond was. I mean the film in general. Like, it's so easy to date a film with its technology, which obviously it inevitably does, but
Oh yeah, this one's all about the
nevertheless,
GPS
when you
tracking
think this is in
system.
'97 and the way they use like a mobile phone in this film and things like that, it's very impressive, and that takes a lot of guts to do actually, because a lot of filmmakers just wouldn't have a phone at all, or any technology. It's just kind of keep that as a smaller thing as possible.
Yeah, just in
But with
case.
Bonds, they're very ambitious with just going, okay, yeah, we're going to call this, and usually I think more often than not they're actually pretty on the money with a lot of stuff, which is, and of course, I mean the plot device in this movie for the most part is that red box,
Yeah.
which obviously you have to have something like that because I mean, and actually even in later Bond films, you need something like a physical object for him to, for an actual physical spy to be,
Yeah. So
physically
it can't
there
just
for.
be like information that they hack out of it with Q or something.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
But still, I think this opening is really good, really good. It's not. I don't know if it's better than GoldenEye because GoldenEye leans more into the plot, but
Mm.
this is still. I love it. It's great action.
This
The
is yeah,
music's
this is
great.
like
We get what I like to kind of think of as Pierce Brosnan's Bond theme. He's got his own sort of theme, which is great. You
yeah.
hear it 2 or 3 times in this movie, and also the Bond theme itself. You get, which is great.
Yeah, it's got
That
like a
never
bit
gets
more
boring.
brass in it, I think.
It's been a while since I think we heard the Bond theme like in a film, but I don't know.
Nah. They had
Feels
them
like a while.
both in like the both previous ones, apart from The Rock, obviously, but still
Hmm.
just gotta remember that. But still, I mean this I mean, yeah, essentially Bond, gets in a plane with the nukes on it and then flies off.
Mm. Yeah. But
Which
what I like is that even though obviously I've seen this film so many times, and it happens right at the beginning, you're like, I just love those moments where it's like, oh, is Bond dead? Is he going to die? Because, the missiles hit and he's just taken off and there's just flames and stuff.
oh
And then
yeah, yeah,
the TV,
yeah, static hits HQ.
static. Yeah, exactly. And you're like, oh, no. And then it just comes out the flames, and it's like, boom, the Bond music. It's like, yeah. But then it's not over at that point either.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
As well, yeah, you get the guy who he knocked out and forgot to kill behind him is, like garroting him, he's
mhm.
pulling that, this is like the beginning of that trademark Pierce Brosnan pain face that he pulls, like,
Yeah, with his jaw out, like,
yeah, I don't
yeah.
even want to do an impression of it, but yeah, you see, it's like we forgot to mention, but like with Roger Moore, they have that one like sound clip of him going like, "Oh," they use
Yeah,
like
that's right.
50 times. this is like
I'll tell
Pierce
you what though,
Brosnan
Pierce
switching.
Brosnan, I kind of kept an eye on his kind of stunts and stuff, and I mean, obviously he wasn't doing backflips or anything, but Pierce Brosnan, he did do, a fair bit of, jumping around and stuff.
Yeah, he did a fair bit of running, you know.
Yeah, well, I was like, yeah, I've always loved for some reason Pierce Brosnan's running technique. He's got really high hands, and it's realistic running. So
yeah,
I've always appreciated. It's like a very small thing I always appreciated about him.
yeah. One thing I also have to say with the gun barrel of this one, I quite like his. He just like is a straight shot, like he's not like bending or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I can give him credit.
Yeah.
And they actually had a theme for it, which wasn't the GoldenEye like weird techno soundtrack, whatever it was.
Mm.
But
And I like how he gets out of the jam in this as well. I mean, I have to say, however they filmed this is so impressive. I don't know how they did it, but very, very with the fighter jets and obviously ejecting the guy into the other plane. I mean, it looked faintly ridiculous when you see him like literally slot up into the
yeah,
exact seating position. But it's so quick. It's like, whatever, it
yeah, it's
doesn't
like
matter really.
insane.
And then he goes and asked the general where he would like his bombs delivered. Like, oh,
Love that
brilliant,
as well.
brilliant, brilliant, brilliant.
And it cuts into the opening credits quite
Hmm.
well. And before we talk about the song quickly, I just have to say I mean I talk about the actual credits like design quite a bit. This
Hmm.
one like is like you can't really ignore, at least at the beginning. I like the kind of the theming of it because there's a lot of
When it goes into like shattered glass and
yeah,
stuff.
shattered glass, a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
like
All the
numbers
media,
sort of like
yeah.
nearly Matrix style and all that.
It is a little bit Matrix, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
thought
all
that.
the yeah, and all like instead of like just being dancers, they're like made out of like silicon chips and all that.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's kind of cool, I guess. But what do you all think of Tomorrow Never Dies, performed by how have I
Sheryl
forgot the name?
Crow.
Yeah,
Sheryl Crow.
Sheryl Crow. It's good.
I think it's good, yeah.
It's solid. Yeah.
yeah, it's
It
good.
kind of really like embodies the film. Actually, it's just like, yeah, this is
Yeah.
good. I'm here for the ride,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah. The funny thing as well is, I mean, both of you probably know this already, as a lot of people do. The fact that this film was originally supposed to be called Tomorrow Never Lies, because
Oh
then it would
yeah.
make sense with the news and
No, I
all.
didn't know that.
But then someone made a typo, and then they thought, oh, Tomorrow Never Dies sounds way cooler. So then
Really?
they went with that. So
I never
I
knew that. Tomorrow
I
Never
heard
Dies is a great title for a Bond film,
yeah,
I must say. Tomorrow Never Dies. Like, what does it mean? Doesn't matter. It
it
sounds
just
cool, you know.
sounds cool.
I heard slightly different story behind it. I heard that they wrote Tomorrow Never Lies as the film title when they were sending it to the producers or something as an idea, but the ink smudged actually, and it became
Oh,
Tomorrow Never Dies instead. And then
oh, that's how it was.
they were
Well,
like, oh, I mean, I'm not saying that's how it was.
Yeah,
that's
Just
the
I
way
saying
think
it was.
Henry sounds a little bit more. I mean, that's like a real like quirk of fate if that's the case. But I think probably a typo is a bit more realistic.
Yeah.
Either way, I
Then
mean,
again, L
I'm
and
glad
G
it
are very
happened.
far away from each other on the keyboard, but who knows? Anyway, so maybe
Yeah,
someone was
that's
just
true.
bored in the office. So that basically you get those credits, and then it goes
I
into
suppose you could. I'm looking at my keyboard now. You could smudge an L into a D, couldn't you? Probably.
who knows? Oh,
Yeah, if there's like a really heavy ink blot, it could maybe grow out into the curve of the D. So maybe, but
well,
yeah.
whatever happens, who knows? But still, after the credits, you get the scene with Carver's stealth ship
Oh yeah.
basically trolling the British and the Chinese. So they're saying, "Oh well, the British think they're in international waters when actually they've been sent to Chinese waters, or
Hmm.
they've been sent in the wrong spot, or at least, and they know that it can't be wrong because it's GPS. So, which is the new thing they have to explain to the audience, like EMP last time. Whereas now you just turn it off and turn it on again and see if.
But
But
that's what I mean. Now everyone knows what GPS is, but I'm sure Bond would have been one of the first films that ever like had GPS in their
yeah,
movie, right? I would have thought.
Yeah,
maybe.
it's a plot device.
Yeah, but they yeah, and then the Chinese jet's like, you need to fuck off basically. And then the British are like, well, no, we should be here. And then Carver's ship sends like this like remote drill to crash through the ship.
Oh yeah. Now this
Just
is
like a
really
complete
cool.
random
Very
gadget, but
scary, man. I must say. I remember.
yeah,
I can't remember how old I was when I was probably 12.
yeah you first
And
like come on, set
oh,
everything up,
that thing is terrifying, man. That
Yeah,
thing
it's like
is
a diamond
that's
drill.
such an ugly like it's like a bullet. It's like a giant bullet with like 3 massive saws on the front. I mean, whoever thought of that is a genius. It's so cool. It's so scary, man. It's just like, and it's remote controlled, and he's like, oh yeah,
But that's guaranteed to be
terrifying.
like a leftover from the Jigsaw warehouse or something, like that he
Maybe.
just bought.
I love how it's used in this film. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
it's set up here, and then you see it at the end where you've kind of
I
forgotten
think it's
about
used
it.
3 times, isn't it, in total, right?
I
Or
think
is
it's
it?
only used twice,
Okay.
like at the beginning, and yeah.
But
Well, still, I
let's
mean,
get Stamper out the way. Let's talk about him so we don't have to do it
yeah,
again.
yeah, the classic. No, he basically just hands too, except he talks.
No,
So
it's not. It's not hands too. It's like like a really bad effort to like fuse Hands and Red Grant together, and for me it just doesn't work. I don't like Stamper at all, man. He's just.
Uh,
I mean, yeah, I get it. I don't know really
his
what else.
quirk was supposed to be that he
I couldn't really
stamped
suggest
on people.
many improvements other than his drip, perhaps.
well, actually, the,
But
the the way he got the part is quite funny. So it was
oh yeah.
some unknown German actor or whatever, and then like I don't know who he went to, might have been producers, and they was like looking for a part or something. They were like, "Oh, you've got 5 seconds to say something," because they're in a rush. And then he
Mhm.
was like, "I'm big, I'm bad, I'm German," and then they just went off. And then he said something about their smile told me I got the part, and then like he got
Oh, all right.
yes,
Well, fair enough. I mean, I don't want to hate on him too much because I don't think he's necessarily bad. It's just I felt like they wanted to like just bring back Ray Grant a little bit, but then they just went, well, okay, let's do it like this, and then we don't have to ever do it again, which is effectively what happens. So
Yeah,
I suppose in that sense, it's
yeah,
okay.
he's the last of the tall blonde,
Yeah,
German lineage,
that's right.
So
yeah.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, and ironic he gets killed by a rocket too. But anyway, I mean, yeah, so they destroyed the ship. They also shoot down the planes, and obviously this stealth boat is shaped in such a way as so it can't be detected by anything,
mhm.
or at least will appear as like a periscope or something. Um, like then again, the Penguin had it, 20 years prior. But anyway, they had
30.
yeah, yes, they sink the ship, and also they mow down the survivors with the correct type of ammunition, as
Yeah.
Carver says, to
I
make it
think
look
the,
like the Chinese killed them.
I
So,
think the strongest part of this film is definitely how relevant the plot has like aged. Like,
oh yeah,
there's so much now about like fake
Mm.
news and everything, and
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
then they just got like they were way ahead of the curve back then because there was no, as far as I know or I heard of when we studied media or whatever, in sociology actually, there was any like distrust in the media back then on a
Mm.
widespread level. There was a lot more trust than there is now, like,
Yeah. Yeah. Of
and
course.
so like that plot has really aged like fine wine in a way.
yeah.
I hear people criticizing it, I just don't understand why, because it's
Well,
really
No, and I think it's particularly effective because obviously, Elliot Carver's literally a fusion of Steve Jobs and
Rupert
Rupert
Murdoch.
Murdoch. So,
Yeah,
which is genius. And like, I don't know. I mean, you can tell with his because we get to see him, right, which is good. They get him like straight
Hmm.
out the straight through
Oh,
the door as well.
yeah,
And he's, I mean, they couldn't quite put the turtleneck on him. But
yeah.
they got like close enough. But I feel like there must have been some kind of like very close to being like not
So,
plagiarizing, but defamation or something, man, like with
yeah,
Zorin. But the thing about the really interesting thing about Steve Jobs at this time was because obviously I think it was in 95 or 6 was when got he left Apple, right? So it was like a really and Apple went down the hit like really like went down the pan after he left, and then he came back and basically saved them after a few years. So I mean, I'm being a bit fast and loose with what happened, but that's effectively what happened. But anyway, that all happened during the period of this film, like 97. Steve Jobs wasn't at Apple. So it's really interesting, like how they actually went about that. And I mean, it's so obviously he's so obviously meant to look like Steve Jobs,
yeah,
but then also be, have the kind of
Role of Murdoch.
capacity or the resources of Rupert Murdoch, I suppose.
He must be like the most over dramatic villain in a way as well. Like the way he like
Yeah, he does overdo it sometimes.
he does like he loves like monologues and stuff when there's like the most inappropriate times. And
I agree with that, but I think what I really appreciate about the guy's performance, what's the actor's name?
Jonathan Pryce.
Jonathan Pryce.
Jonathan Pryce, that's it. He it is a little bit over the top, but I think he does it just enough where it doesn't break my suspension of disbelief. He's there and he is over the top, but I'm like, actually, you know what? I think that is probably quite realistic to how someone like that would be. Like the power's really got to his head. No one's stopping him. And he's like, now he's just like manipulating entire governments and countries. And he's like, yeah, well, I mean, why wouldn't? And then he goes, I think a great line from him is when he says, the only the measure between insanity and genius is success. And it's like, well, shit, he's actually kind of right there, man. Like, he's not wrong. So yeah, I think he's a fantastic villain, I must say.
Yeah.
As well, just because this thought came to me, if Goldfinger is Trump's favorite Bond film, there's probably a second favorite, because he'd be like, I was there. But
Yeah,
still.
maybe.
So he manages to make it look like the Chinese and the British fought each other.
Yeah.
And then he immediately gives a speech about his new software, among other things, to group either people he employs or investors, maybe. I don't know.
And do you know what makes me laugh as well? I'm gonna actually keep talking because I'm gonna look up the date for this now.
He goes on and he's like, well, we've got the perfect inaugural story for the new satellite network that will reach everyone on the planet. And he goes on for quite a bit, and he ends up being like, there's no news like bad news.
By the
And
way,
he also gets a little bit of a flex, being like, yeah, tell the president if he doesn't get this, bill passed reducing our taxes or anything, then release this video of him with his secretary or something, and then after he does it, release it anyway.
Another interesting little part was it's a little tidbit, but actually one of his underlings who he's giving a speech to is Michael G. Wilson, who's who had quite a very unmissable cameo in the film, and he actually does that in a lot of the films. I think this is the first film actually that they produced, Barbara Broccoli and Michael G.
Wilson. Because Cubby had just passed away, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to fact check this. So, you know what that scene really reminded me of when he's talking to he's addressing his whatever baddie customers, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like copy and paste from Hank Scorpio and The Simpsons. When he's talking to those guys and he's like, yeah, exactly the same. And that episode aired in 1996. So literally,
maybe.
I feel like I don't know, because obviously Hank Scorpio is like a blend of Zorin, Goldfinger, and Elliot Carver, but this is before Elliot Carver was a thing, so that's actually quite amusing, actually, I think.
Oh yeah, and also like the Steve Jobs thing that aged quite well in here is the fact that the new software they're launching is been intentionally riddled with bugs, so people have to upgrade.
Oh yeah, that is so far ahead of its time, man. I can't believe it.
It's like, my iPhone keeps running out of battery constantly. I wonder why.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Windows 11 or whatever.
Yeah.
The infamous update. Anyway,
at what point with iPhones did you realize that was the case? Because I think it dawned on me when iOS 7 came out in 2013, I want to say, or 14, and I was like, yeah, this is all I realized why they do that now. I was like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, we're just constantly decreasing our potential list of sponsors, so good. Anyway, the next thing happens, to my knowledge, is that Moneypenny gets Bond out of bed, and he's speaking French, which is
Danish,
yeah, or French, yeah.
I thought it was German, and then it's Danish. I'm like, oh, okay.
Nah. He does speak German later on in the film, which is really cursed. But anyway, and then and then M spars with the Admiral again, which she's got quite a funny line because he's like, yeah, this guy wants to start World War III. He's like, oh yeah, well, pardon me, Em, but I think you don't have the balls for this. And then like she's like, well, maybe not, but at least I have to think with them all the time. And
What
then
a
he's just
great
like,
comeback. Can you imagine how long she's been waiting to say that to someone,
yeah,
man?
exactly. And
But
I
the
think
only
she's
thing for me
got.
is like that is so. The funny thing about that line is it's so unrealistic that the general would say that to her in front of everyone. That's
yeah,
so ridiculous. But then the reply is just so worth it. You're like,
I,
ah, it doesn't matter.
I think
yeah, it's so
I
good. I mean,
think this M is probably, for me at least, she has the funniest role she does in this film. For me, I think
Mm.
she gets some funny moments like
Yeah,
"Don't ask, don't tell," and it's quite funny for me.
I don't
that
know,
only works because of Judy Dench. Samantha Bond is so.
over the top.
No, she's just wooden. I don't. She
No,
doesn't convince me at all as Moneypenny. I mean,
that's more on her,
Yeah, it's
really,
not like
isn't
a
it?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's. I mean, Judy Dench obviously pulls it off every time, but Samantha Bond for me just never ever moves me at all in any sort of
Yeah,
way
because like the thing
whatsoever.
is with Samantha Bond's Moneypenny is like Moneypenny and Bond, if they're like sparring, it's got to be like sort of there has to be some sort of banter to it in a way.
Of
It's
course,
not like with them it
plans.
just feels like, oh, I actually hate you, and it's just like, all right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or it's
It's
like he's like she's
flanter,
like
right?
snitching
It's
on him,
like flirting and banter. You know, it has to be.
yeah. It's like the what's appropriate in the workplace mean. But anyway, yeah. So then you get like the car brief, like where like M and Bond are just like
Oh no, sorry. Yeah.
yeah, where they're just like, oh well, here's a lot of exposition, and you
Yeah,
need to
yeah,
also
yeah.
talk to Paris, and then yeah, and then you can remind her who you are, and then because he had a
Mm.
previous relationship, and be like, oh, then pump her for information. Then Samantha Bonds is in
Yeah.
to nail
By
the
the
pump,
way,
the pump line, the punch
That's
line.
the problem. Yeah, she just takes it one line too far. The dialogue was good until
yeah.
then. She just kind of
Yeah.
sours it, and you're
Oh,
like,
then you'll have to decide how much pumping you got to do.
yeah.
By the
Talking
way,
about sex,
about
by the way. Yeah.
Paris Carver, she Terry Hatcher, who played her, and I think she's really really good.
Mm.
She didn't like Pierce Brosnan. They didn't get on
Oh.
set much, and yeah, obviously it's a surprise because she acts so well. But
The slap wasn't in the
she
script.
actually yeah she didn't actually wasn't so hot on this particular role.
Hmm.
But the reason she did it actually is because her late husband basically wanted to be a Bond actor, and like
Oh.
always wanted to, and I think like she like promised him or something before he died that she would be a Bond girl because he wouldn't be able to be a Bond, and then like so yeah, so that's she went into this film. That's why she
Interesting.
went for this
Interesting.
role,
Fair enough.
and
But
Well,
I really like her for that. Actually, I know it's just like such a cool story.
yeah,
Well, in a way,
yeah.
for a
well, yeah.
character.
I really, really want to talk about Paris Carver. I think
But can
she's kind
we?
of like,
There's just one thing that comes
oh yeah.
before this because there's an insert scene before Bond actually goes to Paris to meet her.
Hmm.
Bond goes to the automobile
Oh,
shop, and
oh.
he speaks a bit of German, and he's like, "Oh yeah, just let my assistant speak with you." And then Q goes through what kind of insurance Bond will need on his car, which is
Yeah.
so funny. Just
This is
like,
the best. Probably, I mean, Q and Bond have had some great dialogue over the decades, but I think this is right up there with the best
yeah, it's like,
because,
oh yeah,
yeah,
bodily
I,
damage. I hope not. And all that sort of
yeah,
like.
usual. Oh, that covers the usual wear and tear, you know.
It's like anything else, like yeah, anything else I need protection from? Only from me,
Yeah,
007. If you don't bring the car back, which you never
in
do.
pristine order, exactly. And he's like, I have no interest in your sordid affairs, like.
Sordid escapades.
That's right, escapades. Yeah, like sordid
Yeah,
escapades.
as
So
well.
good, man.
There was how they show like the crate where the car is in, and then
Yeah,
he like shows them, yeah, oh yeah, you can drive with your phone.
Captain
There's a
Scarlet.
crate, yeah, there's a crate next to it, yeah. Which there's a deleted scene of it like opening, and there's a jaguar inside, like the animal, and then it'd be like, oh yeah, we've got a
Oh,
mix up here. But
oh.
then they decided not to go with it.
Yeah, good thing they cut that. That'd have been
You
silly.
can still see it in the back though.
But
Um, yeah,
what is
Bond
Q
flies up.
wearing as well, man? He's wearing like the most bright red blazer I've ever seen, man. He looks like a traffic light or
It
something,
looks
man.
Yeah,
like airport stuff or something, which
yeah,
is what
yeah.
they were
Yeah.
wearing.
Yeah, but yeah,
Anyway,
that much.
yeah,
But
Bond.
I think I mean the brief. I mean the gadget, like the phone, and obviously Sony Ericsson, which is so like of its time.
Yeah,
And then, I mean, the car itself, I mean, it's
just
probably
another
most,
BMW.
one of the most bland Bond cars we've ever had.
Yeah.
But the way they use it is amazing, man.
Oh, yeah,
And I love
the
that Bond
soundtrack
just
for
picks
its
up straight.
chase.
You know, Key's obviously struggling with the tech a bit, and then Bond picks up. He's straight away, and it's so. I don't know. I always watch that scene. I'm like, well, could he do that? It's like, well, he is Bond, you know. Like, why
I
not?
love the scene where I love the bit where he opens the car door and he hears the automated voice
Oh,
kind of.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like,
Oh
I
yeah.
think we've met, and then
Yeah, it's just like, and then
Huh.
Q's like, I don't need to hear how many people you banged
Yeah.
in the office, Bond, you know, like.
Say it, Henry. Say the line. Sordid escapades.
I'm not interested in your sordid escapades. No, blah, blah, blah.
I'm always the only part of this scene which kind of unsettles me is how close he comes to like killing Q. Basically, I'm like, I'm always a little bit uneasy about that, you know. But
Yeah.
Yeah,
poor
well, yeah,
guy.
well, Bond is like probably like suicidal anyway with his job, so he probably doesn't care. But
So
anyway,
what were you trying to say about Paris Carver? Now that we're in chat.
well, yeah, well now
Well, are
Bond
we
goes
done
to
with
the
Q
pub.
because this is the last time we see Q in this film. So let's, you
Yeah,
know, he's
yeah.
great.
So
So
yeah,
good.
yeah, Bond pops down to this epic party,
Yeah,
wicked party you could call it.
wicked party. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, meets Paris Carver, Elliot Carver, Wei
Paris
Lin.
Carver is looking 10 out of 10 at this party, man. And
Oh, you're
what
supposed to.
aside from that, obviously, she's just it's so such an interesting path that they decides to go down with Bond and his, you know, female whatever Bond girl, right? So like, because it's always, you know, something very unrealistic, and it's like, oh, okay, you know, here we go again. In this case, they've like, and this is the only time they've ever done this in a Bond film. It's really interesting that how they went about doing it.
Yeah, what happens afterwards? Yeah,
Yeah, it's like, oh shit, so this is Bond's ex, and you're like, wow, you know,
yeah, it's
and
got a long list.
it's really, really, I just really like how much depth that gives his, you know, his character. It's so interesting just to see, yeah, the past catching up with him for once, and
Yeah.
and how he has to deal with that. Very, very. It's just great. It adds so much complexity to his character. You know, I mean, yeah, you've had like references to his late wife and stuff, but obviously that's kind of worn a bit thin by now. So you're like, okay, what can we do now? And to have Bond's ex, and he's very. What I really like is Bond is very reluctant to actually to follow through with this, and he doesn't want to get her involved. I mean, he obviously sees her, but then he's like, I don't want to know anything. Like, you know, she only really ever incriminates herself, but he
Yeah, she
doesn't. I mean,
takes herself
obviously,
out.
because he's Bond, he's obviously like so attractive, he can't be he's irresistible. But um I just like the fact that he's obviously very conflicted about how to approach this, and I mean, eventually, obviously, it works out well for him,
Hmm.
more or less, but still, it's still very like very intriguing character, and the actress Terry Hatcher,
Yeah.
fantastic. I
I
mean, they really
think
sell it for me, both of them. Pierce
I've heard
Brosnan.
someone say that that should have been one of the Bond girls from a previous film, like Natalia or something.
Oh, hmm.
But the thing is that they brought up Natalia specifically. But I think I think that's completely missing the fact that Natalia is basically like immune to death at this point or
Yeah,
something.
literally.
So I don't
Yeah, that
think
would have been
she would have.
far too distracting as well. I
Yeah.
mean, they missed the opportunity with that with Triple X. I can't remember. She was supposed to
Oh
be,
yeah,
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 A View to a Kill.
Paul
That was the
Manova, yeah.
chance, but they didn't do it. So,
yeah, yeah. Well, you know, at least you get Daniel Craig's era of Vesper about 4 times, so nice to know.
well,
Anyway,
yeah.
Yeah.
so yeah, Bond also gets carted off at some point to get beaten the shit out of behind the
No, no,
scenes.
no. There's a really funny line where it's
Oh
like,
yeah,
which I quite like, is just how awkward it is, but the actors play it off so well.
Mhm.
Is like when Wei Lin and Elliot Carver are being introduced to each other, and then he's like, "Perhaps I should put you in my Beijing bureau," and he's like, "Mr. Carver, you don't have a bureau in Beijing," and he's like, "Call me Elliot." And it's just like I don't know, I just find that so
that is
amusing,
quite funny to
funny.
be fair.
I love how obvious Bond is. He doesn't give a fuck, man. He just
Yeah,
walks
he
in there and
just
he's
like
like,
blows
"Oh
his
yeah,
shit.
I'm a banker." You know, like
Just
Yeah, yeah,
basing himself out
yeah, and
all
he's
the
like,
time.
"Yeah, oh,
definitely.
so yeah, and I feel totally lost at sea, and you know, all this shit." It's so funny, man.
Adrift.
just antagonizing
Yeah,
Elliot
yeah, and
Carter.
he's like, yeah, he goes on about, oh yeah, you could do all sorts of things, like send a British ship, of course, and shoot down Chinese planes, or
I mean, you know
something.
what? It's kind of just crossed my mind. Yeah, that's right. It's just crossed my mind with all the, because whenever Bond goes and does this, it's like, well, it's kind of like, well, that would never happen. But actually, it probably would, because he's just trying to provoke a response. Because if Elliot Carver's innocent, nothing's going to happen. It's like he's going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about, mate? But then obviously he does enough, and Elliot Carver reacts by having him
Yeah,
like having
yeah,
7 shades of shit kicked out of him. So it's like, okay, there is something afoot, basically. So yeah, and so it's kind of like, okay, yeah, because he's just trying to provoke a reaction. That's why Bond does
yeah,
that shit all the time, singeing Smythe and all of that,
true, true. Oh
Cool.
yeah,
To
but
different
then,
extents, obviously,
yeah,
but
it,
still.
it never works in the Beautiful Kill, but still,
Yeah.
I love as well,
What about fishing?
Yeah,
Fly casting.
yeah,
that's exactly
fly
what I was thinking
catching, yeah.
of.
It's the fact, as well,
Where are
like,
your bombs, mate?
yeah, yeah, the fight starts. I mean, he's getting beaten up, but then like it all starts like the classic thing where like the hero
Henry, wait,
moves his
sorry,
head
but have
out
you
the
seen
way.
Henry? You know the Peep Show episode where Mark goes and like antagonizes Jeff. He's like, "Yeah, I had a real good shag last night with your
Yeah,
mum." It's like Bond is basically doing that with the villains, man.
yeah, exactly. It's like the one where like he moves his head out the way so the villain punches the guy who's holding him, and then it all starts. And
Yeah.
then there's quite a
That's
funny
very
thing.
clever though, because that's exactly what I would do in a torture situation. I would act like a complete wimp. I would be like, because what's the point in like doubling down and like, yeah, you can't crack me. They're just gonna like hurt you more.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
like,
But
you
still,
just you go down like a rag doll, like sack of potatoes, and then when they're least expecting it, you just summon all of your strength, and then
yeah, yeah.
they
Oh,
won't. That's exactly what I would do. So
this
to any
is like the
potential
thing is though.
kidnappers out there, watch out.
Yeah, well, the thing is that I didn't get as well. It's like this fight is all right. He like beats someone over the head with like I don't know a glass cigarette
Ashtray.
It's
ashtray.
like
Yeah,
it's not. Yeah, I'm wondering what that is. It's because it's in a recording studio, so I'm thinking, is that a piece of music technology? But it's not. It's just like this giant glass ashtray. It's like
yeah,
fuck, man. And he's going over a bald guy's head as well, which is quite satisfying to watch. So
yeah. Yeah, but the thing is as well, like one of the guys like one of the guys literally it's not like he's Bond dodges him or any dodges him to make him hit his mate. He just gets out of back and just whacks his mate around the back with it. I know it's not
yeah,
the point.
it's
I'm
it
just
is a
like
little bit silly. It's reminiscent, actually, very reminiscent of that little fight in The Man with the Golden Gun. In fact, it almost looks like the same actors, doesn't it? The big bald one.
oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
actually.
maybe. But still,
But yeah, it kind of annoyed me that didn't knock him out cold. He just goes, oh, like,
yeah.
is your skull's that thick? Is it? Like, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe it is, but I don't know.
Yeah, as well. But then like Bond decides to screw over Carver by
Mm.
interrupting him mid-speech by just turning everything off, rip a few wires
Well,
out.
that's the kind of little bit unsatisfying. Like, he didn't actually. He kind of turned it off right at the end of the speech, and I'm sure they could have. I bet they were tempted to like have a more amusing, payoff to that. But it worked, didn't it? So it
Yeah,
was fine.
like cuts him off at like the worst spot. But still. Yeah, and then like he starts like raging as well. He's like, "Oh, why are
Yeah.
we off the air?" He's like, "Oh, I don't know." It's like, "Yeah, well, you're fired," immediately, like for no reason.
Do you
Like,
know what's funny? That's exact. I mean, I know quite a bit about Steve Jobs because I read his autobiography, but no, his biography, sorry. But he used to do that kind of shit as well. He would just fire people on the spot just because he was so like pissed off. So that's actually, I don't know if that's a little nod again, but yeah,
yeah, well, I don't know. It doesn't seem to be like a rare thing in the business world. But anyway, yeah, I mean after this, yeah, like what was it? Carver talks to Paris and is like, "Yeah,
oh yeah,
oh, so you don't know Bond, or some shit," and then basically sends her off to get information out of him, even though he knows that she won't, just so he can frame
yeah,
Bond for killing her.
yeah,
And the thing is, this is a good scene with like, especially I like how it's set up with like Pierce Brosnan, just like, he's just like kind of he's chilling in his chair, but he's not really chilling. He's
Oh
just kind of
no,
like
just
out
before
of
that
it.
though, like I think it's worth touching on Gupta, how he like
Oh yeah,
it's effectively him who baits out Paris. He didn't have to do that, but you can tell I feel like that's where the true true self comes out, man, because
don't-
he's there and he's like, hating all these couples and stuff, man. He's like, yeah, let's ruin this, man. Oh yeah,
I don't.
and then when Elliot comes over to him, he's like, oh well, well, I did notice something actually. Yeah, if we just zoom in and turn this up right here, then yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
just
think.
see
I
the
don't
gun
think.
under your pillow.
I don't think it's all that actually, because I noticed like um he basically like there's like a really massive hesitation he has before like telling,
I think that's
because
just
he
I think he's play
no
acting,
no no
man.
no because later there's this, in fact I may as well say it now.
Okay.
You know why how it actually shows why Stamper has the name Stamper. So
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
basically
what, does
later
he
on,
stamp on someone's head?
yeah, he does.
yeah,
Oh,
basically later on the ship,
does he
when
curb stomp a?
when
Well, say that, but yeah. American History X.
when Elliot Carver's like
What the hell do I pay you for?
yeah, and like there's a deleted scene which is just far too much, where like
Mm-hmm.
Stamper like rips him out of his chair, throws him on the ground, starts stamping on him, and starts
Ooh,
laughing like
oh,
maniacally.
yikes!
And then like what's his name, Mr. Gupta's just there in the background, and like there's literally a close up on him, and his face is just like, what on earth have I gotten into as that
Oh,
scene's happening?
really?
Maybe
Oh,
maybe
I
they
wish they
should have.
left that in.
There's
Yeah.
there's like a moment of like realization for him, and he's just like, yeah, he's like creeped out by it, and then
Oh, I
and
bet
it's
it's like in Drive, when he's like Ryan Gosling's like stamping on that guy's head,
Yeah,
and you get like a little flash of it, like, oh, I bet it was like that. Oh,
and I
that's really
think I
cool.
know that probably makes him one of probably the most. I know it's not much competition, but probably the most humane villain in this installment. So
yeah, humane in
In
this
his
show.
yeah, and then it covers Entourage. Yeah, he might be,
Yeah.
but what I would well actually yeah, that plays into his persona very well, because right at the beginning of the film they're like, yeah, well, he was just like a hacker, and now he sells his politics, and it's like, yeah, that's exactly what you do, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And I think it's also worth just on a final, like, adding to this Steve Jobs lore, the fact that Gupta's like a clone of like Steve Wozniak as well, man, which is like really funny, man. Looks the same, has the same kind of relationship, like same role, and it's as Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak had. So I don't know if you've seen a picture of Wozniak, but man, it's like very obvious, when
he
you
reminds
look
me
it up.
a little bit of Boris actually, from GoldenEye, because
Yeah,
he
he's supposed to
serves
play a
in a
similar role, but
very similar
Yeah,
capacity.
well,
yeah.
just as well. My final thing to say about Gupta here is like I love the line where he's like, "Oh, well, so I found Bond's history as a banker. He's
Oh yeah.
done everything perfectly, crossed every T, dotted every I," and he's like, so then Carver's like, "Yeah, what does that mean? Government agent,
Yeah.
like, because no one
Never
has a
been
clue.
late for work. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, all
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
fair.
It's like the easiest thing to make. But anyway, um, I mean,
Right. So then Bond is chilling in his
yeah, quote unquote
hotel
chilling.
room.
He's like exhausted chilling, that sort of
He's
thing.
looking very, you know, looking very good, to be fair as well. Let's be fair.
Yeah,
Because
he's
I
got
mean,
like
he's just been. I mean, because he's like, you see him. He's like, dressed to the 11s with his tuxedo once again, and then oh yeah, and they do it again, man. They do it again when he says Bond, James Bond, and the jazz music stops, for him to say that. I'm like, I mean, it wasn't so extreme as in GoldenEye, but it's still like, come on, man.
I think this is the part where the soundtrack is like at its kind of. It's not that the music itself is bad; it's the way it's used. Because like him and Carver are having, well, him and Paris, I should say, are having a like quite a like heartfelt scene, and it's like the music is way too loud in this, and it's like, oh, this, by the way, audience, this is how you should feel if you can't tell. It's
Yeah.
just like just either have it quieter or just like tone it down in a different way.
But yeah, we see a Piers Brosnan. He's like, a little bit. I don't know if defrocked is the right word, but he's there. He's kind of, his top two buttons are undone. And it's like when you get home from school, you're just like, yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the exact thing that people do.
yeah,
Yeah, a glass of fruit shoot instead of cognac.
vodka,
Yeah,
yeah, of
complete with the alcohol
course.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway,
shot
yeah.
black. Yes.
So yeah, she's like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna die probably. By the way, here's the next plot point for you because I know this, and yeah, I'm gonna leave.
It's
And
still like I do like it though. It's still like, I mean, of all the needless Bond sex scenes, it's probably like the most believable and intimate, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
Apart from
and
obviously dying a rig, but still.
yeah,
The
and
music
actually
is
like
really good in that.
a
Mhm.
somewhat yeah, and it's somewhat plot relevant. So
Oh, well, it is, of course. And what I like again is this is where Pierce Brosnan's acting really comes into play. He is. You can see like there is an inner conflict in there where he's like, I don't want to get involved in this, but it's kind of too late for that now. And she is, pretty, it's like XX, so it's like, yeah, all right, let's, fuck it, let's whatever. It's my life now, so
yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, so this ends up going to the next scene, which is just like he goes to this place where she was talking about, which is like some
Oh,
sort of
and sorry, one
like,
more thing, because she even says at the end, her like last line is, oh, your job it's murder on relationships, and he's like, yeah,
hmm,
and obviously what
yeah, yeah,
ensues
yeah,
confirms this,
exactly.
yeah.
So he goes to like some German printing works in Hamburg because that's where Carver's based, apparently. And he has this like satellite sort of lab underneath it, and you get Gupta saying, "By the way, guys, this satellite's very valuable. It's worth 300 million, so no one break it." And then Bond
Yeah.
does a bit of spy work and steals the encoder on top of a lot
Oh
of.
yeah. By the way, I mean, actually, I'll point it out later, but I did want to add, Henry obviously is someone who, knows more than one language.
Wow.
In your case, German, yeah, because like for an English person, that's very like strange. How did you feel like in terms of Bond being in Germany post Berlin Wall? That's pretty big, right? I suppose.
Well, I mean, this is in Hamburg anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered if the wall was down or not. So
But still,
it it's just kind of like the thing is, I mean, I guess this is the case with Germany anyway. In this, it's maybe why it feels a bit generic because Germany, I mean, maybe it's the place they picked in general. It just feels kind of like very like sterile, like
it's very
even his
drab and grey. It's just like London,
yeah,
actually.
just like his car as well. I mean, it's a
Well,
BMW,
it is on
so
like the same latitude, so they do have similar weather. London
And
and
in fairness, that is what Germany's like. So it's
yeah, it's
not,
just
that's why not many Bond films take place there. But yeah,
at least
yeah,
they have like good skiing stuff in the south. And
yeah, true. As we'll find out, Inspector. Anyway, I mean that's in Austria, but still. Just get to reference that again. Anyway, so yeah, Bond gets the little red box filled with also Gupta's, porn stash. So he
oh yeah,
also
bumps into Wei Lin on the way there
yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
and he just pushes over the satellite just for that satisfying destruction of a lot of money.
Oh yeah,
And
what was it? No, he's yeah,
300.
actually, and as well, I like that you've got. I mean, no, I don't like this bit. This is probably the only bit where I'm like, what the hell, because obviously Bond and Wei Lin are there, right? And Bond's obviously drawing all the fire. But Wei Lin
Yeah,
is like, yeah, she's
walking down this like thing
being
and
like sort of,
well shooting.
nifty and like she's got her own gadgets and stuff. But the really ridiculous moment for me is when she's walking down the hill, walking down the thing like she's strolling through the park, just like waving, like no one sees her at all apart from Bond. It's like I know
Yeah,
he's drawing
yeah.
the fire, but still, it's like really
Yeah,
ridiculous.
the only thing that's good about that, I think, is like Brosnan's reaction. He's just kind of like,
That's good.
like he's just pissed. Even he can't believe it, Like,
It's like,
so
oh, I should have done that.
yeah, exactly. It's just like, I can't you give me something like that?
Yeah.
But I mean, he does give him a gadget, which is like something similar to that at some point. But anyway, I
Well, he
swear.
gives him the belt, doesn't he? GoldenEye's kind of similar, but yeah.
Yeah. Like Wayland just nicked that or something. But anyway, yeah, actually, anyway, can make a joke about Chinese technology. But anyway, so he
they
he
actually point that out
escapes,
later. But yeah,
right? Yeah. So he
Oh wait,
escapes.
but before he escapes, doesn't he have like a fight in the
Yeah, he
press
does.
printing press? Oh, that's
Man,
so cool, man! It's
that
so
employee.
creative.
Yeah, that
it
reminds me a bit
is.
of Temple of Doom when the guy gets like because of the way that
Oh,
the
yeah,
guy
that's
gets
true. But
all his blood
I
goes down his
really
back.
admire and respect how creative that is. I think what really stands out in Tomorrow Never Dies is the creativity in the fight and action scenes in general. Like because they're usually set in pretty unremarkable, surroundings.
Hmm.
Like the car chase out is in an actual car park, and then this is like in a printing press, and it's like, oh well, actually, what can we you can imagine the set design and the director stood there like, what can we do here? Sort of looking
Yeah,
around.
I do like it, to be
What
fair.
kind of puns can we come up with here?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like he chucks the guy in, like it starts.
Yeah, this
all
is
the
one of my
pages get blood.
favorite
It's like,
one-liners, man.
oh, they'll print anything these days.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
and the thing is as well, I mean, obviously they're armed guards, but this guy's like dressed up like one of the regular employees. So is he like really going for that bonus? Just
Might
to
be the
like,
chief editor. He's like, don't
yeah,
fuck with my
exactly.
papers,
Like,
man.
if I was in this situation and I was that guy, I'd be like, fuck this, man. This is way above my pay grade. I'll just go home.
Yeah, you're not
So-
paid for this.
Exactly. This guy's like,
He gets laid out as well, man. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then yeah, Bond manages to like, yeah, he's protected by like these giant rolls of like, I assume printing paper, like that are just downstairs or something, and like shoots across like the floor like a pallet or something like that, like on wheels or something. He's
Yeah,
like,
I think we have a bit of stormtrooper aiming this as well,
yeah,
but
basically does tobogganing in this.
very cool. Yeah, that's right. He's sort of on his belly with one of those things that goes under cars. That's very cool.
Yeah, and he gets back to his hotel room and he's like, oh, yeah, because he's like,
Oh
aiming at,
yeah,
and he's like he starts hearing a news broadcast, which is like it's obviously not actually broadcasting, but it's like, oh yeah, wife of Elliot Carver, Paris Carver, found dead with an unidentified man who appears to have shot himself.
yeah.
And then Bond's like, oh shit, because then he sees that she's dead, and then everyone's favorite Dr. Kaufman turns up and says "ja" and "z" quite a few times just to make sure
Oh.
he's German. And
Presumably the actor himself wasn't German, was he?
well,
Let me have a look.
it's like
I'm gonna have a look while Tom. Let's let Tom
it's
go
like
on his
it's
rant,
like
man.
the German equivalent of saying it's Tuesday, in it, like in that really exaggerated
Yeah,
way.
literally, yeah.
Oh,
Least
Yeah.
convincing Bond out the villain ever, man.
so funny, but it's funny but bad. Like,
this character, like, we had this book when we were younger because we always liked James Bond, and it had like every section or whatever in a kind of thick catalog almost, and it had a section for every character, every gadget, and like villains,
perhaps
whatever.
talking about the essential Bond here. Oh,
Yeah,
show it on
I
screen
think
because it's kind of fucked up.
The
there
actor is a
there
chap
is.
called Vincent. I'm gonna butcher his name. Schiavelli.
Doesn't
Schiavelli.
sound German.
Yeah, he
To me.
appears to be like an American Italian, so
The fuck?
that
And
adds up.
You
this
should just got
book,
stamped and do this.
this book was
Yeah,
like
literally. Yeah, literally.
this book was like just hyping up Dr. Kaufman like he was the most like apex character slash villain
It's
ever.
like
Yeah,
And he was like
he almost got like a double-page spread, didn't he? If I
yeah,
remember.
this is
yeah,
like
I
this
don't
guy,
know. But he got
this is
got,
like
like-
Pierce Brosnan's equivalent of like Charles Gray's like 2-minute part in You Only Live Twice.
yeah,
Yeah,
he got
yeah,
like
exactly.
he's like, oh, he gets to deliver this best line of the film, and like he does all this and this, and then like when I
Like he
actually
gets
watched it,
erased by one of the henchmen.
when I watched it for the first time, I was like, wow, like I felt so betrayed by that book. Like it did that with that character, and it did that with Karen Bay, and I was like, well, at least
Oh,
Karen Bay had multiple scenes, and like there's
and
a
Mr.
better
Henderson.
case with, yeah, a little bit.
What
more.
was he supposed to like? What was his like amazing line that he delivered? He's like, oh, it was quite funny when he's like, oh yeah, because his whole thing is he's supposed to be able to make a lot of things look like suicides or like
Yeah.
he's meant
He's
to
just watched a lot of CSI, yeah.
yeah, he's like, oh, well, my favorite is the
Celebrity
Overdose.
I
Overdose.
listen to every all of the true crime podcasts. Ah, yes.
Yeah. Oh man.
So terrible.
Yeah, and at the same time, this
So
is just
embarrassing. Like he gets killed in the scene he's introduced in. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
there's like no villains that
Are you
happen.
complaining, Tom? Did you want another scene with him?
Yeah,
or-
exactly. Yeah, he comes
I
back.
don't know.
and
I
fucks
wanted
them.
after all that reading and after all that waiting to watch Tomorrow Never Dies, I wanted like a little bit more payoff than that. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, but he gets dispatched with a quite a good one-liner, but
Yeah,
still.
he does.
Oh, it's great one-liner. Yes, so am I. Bang.
Yeah, yeah, it's just like,
Good
oh,
line.
I'm just a professional doing a job because like he can't get into his goons can't get into the car, and he's like, oh, well, this is fucked up. By the way, Bolton, do you have any way to get into this car? He's like, yeah, take my phone that's not laden with 20,000
Yeah.
volts.
I do it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, just push that combination on there. Yeah, you're sure
Yeah.
to get in.
Just
And
point the top towards you, would you? As well,
yeah,
that'll make it better
he's like imagine
reception.
he's
Yeah.
imagine he's like a proper boomer, man. He never hold a phone before. He's like holding it the wrong way around, and it pops out. And he's like, but anyway,
Yeah, could have easily zapped Bond, actually, come to think of it. So yeah.
yeah, it depends.
He's trying to like grab sympathy after like brutally torturing
Yeah.
his
Yeah,
ex as
yeah.
well. Like
Yeah.
you're joking.
So I am just a professional trying to do a
The
job.
only kind of semi-amusing thing he does is when Stamper calls him. He's like, "Yeah, you can't kill him yet. And we need to find out where this thing is." So yeah.
Yeah, he's like,
And he's like, "Oh, yes, I'm totally the German, and this is so embarrassing. Like it's like, come on, man.
I'm so glad he gets killed so quickly. Like,
Yeah,
it's like,
kill him off. I think you're right though.
so-
Stamper would have been way better. I mean, you need the payoff of the gadget, but other than that, it's like, yeah, all right.
yeah, true. It would have been even better to start Stamper as being a guy who like survives that shock.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, he
But
totally
anyway,
would.
oh man, but then that's all forgotten quite quickly because then we get into I think a pretty good car chase at least.
This is one of my favorite car chases, actually, but it's still only probably the second best Pierce Brosnan car chase.
Yeah, it's not.
But
Yeah, this is like a classic, like the staple of Tomorrow Never Dies. It's not the best, but it's still good.
it's brilliant. No, I really think this is.
It's the soundtrack that goes
It's
with
so
it.
the sound, everything, the action. I think Pierce Brosnan. You can tell he's having a great time. You know when he's in the back of the car, and I
Yeah,
think
he's just like,
when he
great.
reinflates the tires, and he's like, he's loving it, man. He's like having a great time.
Yeah,
Like,
they've got everything on this car. They drop tax.
yeah, man.
They've got the
They
most.
throw absolutely everything they can at this car, and he's like, outdoing it all. It's brilliant, man.
Yeah, it's 'cause
The
he's
only
got,
bit which is a little bit faintly ridiculous is when the rocket launcher like goes through the hole in the window.
nah, the most ridiculous part is like they've got this like wire strung up, like
Yeah.
tungsten or whatever, and
Oh
Hugh
yeah.
has randomly put in a thing which just cuts wire at the right height, and
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah. That was a
really?
bit convenient, but yeah.
I don't
Fair.
know, but still,
Everything else. Also, how he jumps into the car just through the back window.
yeah,
You have to
as
have
well.
very good accuracy for that, but fair enough.
Oh, it was funny as well, the way he like dispatches of it too. The fact that he's like, oh,
Oh yeah.
yeah, he gets it. He drives it off the roof of the car park back into the auto shop. Bond like could have killed like a good 20
Yeah,
people doing that as
definitely.
well. But
Well,
he
car
deliberately-
salesman, is that really the biggest loss? I don't know.
he didn't have to do
yeah,
that.
Q's
Like
working in there gets like fucking flattened.
yeah, he did. He definitely.
There's
did
also
that
there's
to annoy
like a
Q.
henchman that like cartwheels out the way as well of the car. I'm like, that was a bit silly, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Imagine he activates the self-destruct after it stopped or something, just for a bit more carnage.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean,
Anyway, it's still a very, very cool scene. It's like a self-contained action scene. I'm like, yeah, this is always good to watch, isn't it?
yeah.
Mm.
I mean, if we've got nothing else to say about it, I mean, I can't really think of much. The next thing that happens is like he meets Jack Wade from the previous film, and he drops off the encoder
yeah.
to the Americans.
And he's in his military uniform. Wow, because
Yeah,
that's
He's in his naval.
everyone cares
uniform.
about that, don't
I
they?
think
Yeah.
Jack Wade's much better in this film. By the way, he gets
I
like
thought you were gonna say he's much better dressed. I was like,
no, he has
And
like a
did you notice there's a moment where Bond actually like sort of looks at his like the way he's dressed, he's kind of judging him, man. Did you notice that? There's a very subtle little look there where it's like, like looking
why
at
did he
his
dress?
white
He's got like
shirt.
a bucket hat on, like some Hawaiian
I think
shirt.
they're just
I'm
making
like,
fun of the Americans like having zero
this is
taste.
like this is almost too much, but like, yeah,
I like,
there's
he
more
does have a good
exposition.
line though when he's like, "Sounds like my first marriage." When he's talking about oxygen asphyxiation or something. Is that a reference to Xenia Onatop? I don't know. I thought about that.
Yeah,
too
it could be. Maybe not. But yeah,
But then, they have like a bit more exposition to be like, oh, it's also the payoff of the joke at the start where M's like, oh yeah, will the Americans be more sad that they lost it or that we found it in terms of their encoding?
yeah.
They're like, oh, how does he know this? Or how did you find this as well? He
I
just
mean,
like,
this is all exposition. This bit, isn't
yeah,
it?
he's just
So,
like, oh yeah, these two circles should line up. Oh, what happened? Oh, they changed the GPS signal and sent it off course.
oh, just like a magnet next to a compass. Exactly.
So that means that if you line these up, we can go find the ship, and he does because he does the halo jump, which
Hey,
is
I must say that halo jump is so impressive, man. Like, unfortunately, it's very hard to actually, there's no such camera that can capture an entire halo jump, unfortunately. And I mean, what's the difference between a halo jump and a base jump?
I
If
think
anyone,
Halo jump might be, I'm just guessing more or less,
because
but
Halo's like how high altitude.
I think it's from a
High
plane
altitude launch.
maybe, or something that's moving, and a base jump might be just from a really high like point.
Yeah, because Halo stands for high altitude, low open, I think, and then base is something I'm not sure, but because I know like crazy millionaires they do like base jumping because it gives them like a that adrenaline kick. It's like an extreme sport, right? But Halo jumping's like a different kettle of fish as far
Yeah,
as I'm
it's not
aware.
an extreme sport. It's just like you will possibly die.
Yeah, but still, I mean, I think they did a really good job with actually doing that. I'm like, yeah, that was very cool. Like they do enough, so it's like, yeah, I'm impressed by this.
Yeah. I mean,
And
yeah,
I do find it funny, like and they're like, oh yeah, hang on a minute, those are Vietnamese waters, aren't they? Well, has he got anything American on him? Like, yeah, literally everything.
yeah. Well, if they find him, yeah, maybe it's better that anyway. So he basically, yeah. So this ends up serving so that he can go find the ship and do some investigating. He's like, oh, this is interesting. Something has taken many. This missile supposedly took 50 tons inside the ship. Something's not quite right. Oh, and also one of the cruise missiles is missing, so that's interesting. And he also meets Wei Lin during this too, in a great fake out where she pulls a harpoon on him,
Oh
and
yeah.
he's just like, "Oh, actually, I recognize you." And then they like have to dip from the place because it's like falling off an underwater cliff or something. So
Oh,
Into a
good
worth
timing.
mentioning
trench.
because it's
Yeah,
very current now. Waylon, the actress, I think her name's
Yeah,
Michelle
Michelle Yeoh,
Yeoh.
she won an Oscar
Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah, just won an
for
Oscar, so fair play.
She's apparently been in everything. She even has a film that's supposedly like a meta parody, or so it's called, where it's called like everything
Everything Everywhere
everywhere
All
at
at Once.
once. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what she won the Oscar for.
yeah. So
So yeah, still yet to see that, but I will at at some point.
they're so lucky to get out the ship. By the way, like when I like, yeah, because it goes into the underwater trench, and like they'd be so toast if that like if they didn't get out in time, and that was there's a convenient air vent to go through as well, and they knew their way out in time, and they got to the surface.
Yeah,
Again, it's
you
just
need,
another underwater scene, which I was just on my phone for most of it. So yeah,
Wow.
you know.
we need like a Max Zorin convenient coincidence counter, for these films. But anyway, yeah, and then they pop out, and then they get discovered by Vietnamese sailors, and then it turns out, oh, they've been taken over by Carver and his men anyway. So, don't know what would have been worse to actually get caught by, to be honest.
That's grim though. Like like you see the guy there, and he's just like chilling, and there's like bring the bones, like, and then you just see like the whatever harpoon goes straight through him, and then just
Yeah, it's
falls
like
over.
someone's taken over the ship beforehand. They just be like, oh yeah, you be the last guy to stand up, then we'll shoot you as soon as we think they might have seen you. So just to get that added fear factor in. But either way, they take him to Carver's building in
Hanoi or Ho Chi
yeah,
Minh
Hanoi,
City.
not in Saigon. That's the
Um,
wrong half.
but
Um,
before he goes there, I think it's time for you
Oh,
to pay attention,
here we go.
I want to play a game.
because I've devised a very interesting quiz for Tomorrow Never Dies.
Great, 2-0, is it? From what I remember.
Well, we're not counting The Rock
Oh,
officially,
all right.
so
Oh,
yeah,
what? So it's only 1-0.
it's 1-0.
Oh yeah, because never seen her again. Yeah, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Go on then.
So the budget for this film.
oh,
Oh,
What was it for GoldenEye again? It was like 45 or something like that, wasn't it?
let me just get it quickly. You okay with the budget from previous film?
oh, you're gonna tell us the budget for the previous film?
You want to know it, or you're both fine with that? Because
Sure,
like
sure thing. Let us know what it was for
it's
the previous film.
$60 million for
$60
that.
million, Mr. Bond.
I
What?
will go in that case. I'm gonna go.
I'm just gonna go with
Really tough.
70 million.
I'm gonna go a little bit hard. I'm gonna go 75.
Final answer: 70 million, 75 million.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I'll stay with mine. This is probably gonna screw me over, but still.
Indeed, it has, because James is closer, ever so slightly. But you're actually both off by noticeable
9
amount.
billion.
It was $111 million that this
Yeah.
thing.
My thinking was that GoldenEye did so well that they threw lots. I was trying to think, where did the budget go? But then you have the opening set piece. You have, there is quite a lot of CGI as well, which cost a lot more to do back then. I mean, it still does, but somehow. But yeah, yeah, that adds up. And the helicopter stuff, later.
Big budget action film.
111 million. Wow.
Yep.
That's great.
I mean, they start going up like a lot
Yeah.
eventually. 'Cause,
No Time to Die's budget.
and that brings us to box office. What do you think it made?
Get a quote on the previous film.
It was 300 million, something like that, wasn't it?
I didn't take down the one for the last one because you actually
because
saw.
No, it was like 300 million though. It was like crazy good. I'm gonna guess.
I'm gonna go with 378 million on this one.
So specific.
Exactly.
I'm gonna go. Ooh.
I think my memory of Brosnan's box office is a bit better.
Oh, this is really hard, man. You said 378. I'm gonna go 400 million then. Oh, but I don't know. Yeah, all right, 400.
378 and 400 million respectively.
Can I change mine to 385 million?
All right, you can change it. So that's your final answers then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Henry's actually close this time. It's actually a bit lower than that. It was 333 million. $11,068. So
yeah, I was thinking because GoldenEye was so successful, I thought everyone would have flocked to go and see it. I mean, that's still very successful, but
this would be like the Thunderball effect,
I almost did like a double. I almost did like a double take when like James mentioned it's like 300 million. I was like, what, did you look this up? All right, but the next question, 1-0. How old was Elliot Carver when he went to work in Hong Kong?
12.
15?
No, but James is closer. He was 16 when it went. By the way, that's meant to be like the easy question.
Great! I can't wait for the rest.
So
I'm really looking forward to seeing what you could.
He's gonna ask us what the entire line of numbers on the encoder was at some point.
No, go on. Let's hear it. Go on.
So, yeah, James is slightly closer. All right. So, Dr. Kaufman, in his one scene, claims, among many things, to be able to shoot Mr. Bond from Stuttgart and still create the proper effect. Considering that they are in Hamburg, how far away would that be?
This is so stacked in Henry's favor, man. I have no idea.
To be fair,
I'm trying to. I don't even my football knowledge won't save me here, man.
Stuttgart. Well, James, you might as well go for a guess.
Why? Because I'll just latch on to whatever you say. You should go first because you know about Germany, man. I'm literally thinking about football clubs. I think Hamburg's in the south, so I'm like.
I'm trying to remember where Stuttgart is specifically. You should know this, man. You look at like 50 German.
I'll help you. I'll help you out a little bit because
I know where Hamburg is.
The implication behind that line is that he can shoot him from very far away. So
really.
Oh, thanks. Okay. Are you looking for an answer in miles or kilometers?
Yeah. Kilometers.
Oh. Damn. I have no idea. I'm gonna just go with. I mean, what's it? I mean, I'm trying to think. I'm gonna go.
Germany's quite similar.
Yeah, it's pretty big, isn't it? I'm gonna go 100 kilometers. Yeah.
I'm gonna go close to 800 or 700 kilometers.
You want to revise those answers at all, or are you sticking with 100 and 800 kilometers?
Hamburg and Stuttgart. All right, yeah. I'm gonna go a bit higher. Henry, you're saying 700. I'm gonna go.
I'll go with. So I'll stick with 850.
I had
850. I'm gonna say 500 then.
I'm gonna because I know it wasn't exactly fair, but I had to put one with Dr. Kaufman in the question.
Yeah.
James is actually closer after that revised answer.
Man, he got Hamburg in a complete wrong spot of Germany, but fair enough.
James was initially going to lose because he only said 100 kilometers, but it's actually
what was it?
536 kilometers. So
I knew that. Totally knew that.
Didn't know
Yeah.
Stuttgart was that close, but it's
Well,
like
Well, it's not really close, man. When you think like London to Newcastle, no, London to Manchester is 100 miles, so that is really significant.
No.
yeah.
Just, I know where places are in Germany. I just don't know like the scale.
That's
of
the thing.
it.
Like, I was just basically going off my UK knowledge, and I'm like, okay, yeah, well, if that's 50, that's 100. I'm like, all right, well, but then I don't know anything about
So is that
geography.
is that 3-1 then?
Yeah,
That's
certainly is.
no, that's like
Yeah, 3-1.
Yeah, it's
oh, yeah,
3-1.
it's 3-1. Sorry, that's my fault.
Yeah, you should be keeping track, man.
3-1. All
Stop
right.
count.
So this is going to be a different question, but I thought this was just too funny to pass up. In Elliot Carver's Vietnam building, which Bond and Wai Lin travel into later, they see a character named General Chang. How many other characters so far in the Bond series have been named Chang? And
2.
which films were they
Okay,
There's one from
Moonraker.
Moonraker and another one from The Man with the Golden Gun. That's it.
from? No, that's not
There's-
quite
Ah,
correct.
yeah, there's a Chang, I think, in A View to a Kill.
No.
No,
There's one more film. By the way, I
it's
didn't.
Goldfinger.
Is it?
Well,
No,
Don't
I'm
think
just
it
saying
you
it with
should know, man.
confidence to try and like.
By the way, you actually got a Chang I missed, so the number actually went up a
Oh,
little bit. when
what
you
the
said
one in Moonraker?
the one, man, they're going, completely forgot about him.
Oh,
But
okay.
there's
Yeah,
one more.
can't believe it. I should
All right,
get
there's
the
one more
win just
then.
for putting that.
You only live twice. No.
No,
No,
there's no
but
Chinese in You Only Live Twice.
Shang.
Trying to think.
Yeah, I should know this because I always point them out, don't I? Isn't that maybe?
Oh, Doctor No. He's supposed to
yep,
be Chang. Yeah,
yep, that
Who's
is
Chang in Doctor No?
that's
that's
the
who
one
Bond is
that Doctor
pretending to
No
be.
barks at the end, like
Yeah,
Chang, what are you
Chang,
doing
get
over
back to
there?
your spot.
Wow.
So that's 3 in Doctor No, Moonraker, and the Man with the Golden Gun. So that's 3-2.
And
so far.
now, obviously, Tomorrow Never Dies. There's 4
Yeah.
Changs.
Yeah.
4. That's insane.
I thought that was a funny. Yeah. So
Great
that
Good
question.
question. I
Henry,
like it.
3-2 to James. Right. Elliot Carver towards the end of the film calls Bond his new anchor man,
Yeah.
and says that he is currently on his way to the bottom of the South China Sea.
Yeah.
What is the maximum known depth of the South China Sea?
I know. This is also in kilometers.
No, in meters, because
Oh,
you can
meters.
get a more specific answer.
Okay, I'm gonna go with 8,600 meters.
Love to see your reaction.
Is that all? I'm going to go way more than that. I'm going to go 20,000.
Okay, it's
My final
just
answer.
8,620,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Henry's actually closer.
Just a reference, James. 12,000 is the maximum depth, roughly, of the Mariana Trench.
Which is the deepest point of all oceans. So yeah.
Whatever.
That
Yeah.
puts
See,
it-
I've been listening to Tom over the years.
yeah, that's
And
actually
then once again, we're in
it's
a.
actually it's actually
You know where I got 20,000 from? I think you know.
yeah.
Yeah, we all know.
I think yeah, it's actually 5,559 meters. So
Oh.
that's still extremely deep, but
Yeah. It's a bit deeper than your average swimming pool.
that goes
All
to
right.
Henry.
Well, then now it's 3-3. So
Yeah.
Three
how does this keep happening, man?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's because we definitely orchestrate this 100%.
now to really, I'm so glad it's 3-all now, because now I get to push your memory to
You
the
give us the
absolute
worst question,
to
like
the
you saved
to
for
the
last.
absolute. Yeah, these get more insane as they go on.
All right, here we go. My memory's better than Henry's, barely.
Yeah,
so
true. I've got like early onset dementia, so you know.
It's time to push your memory to the absolute limit, because this film, as with every other film until this, actually not every other film, but most other films until this point, was in the James Bond VHS collection trailer that we all saw as children. How many times was Tomorrow Never Dies shown in that trailer?
Ooh,
That was like,
great
they always
question.
showed like the Brosnan films and those on the most because everyone was like,
I'm
"Oh,
gonna
this is
go 8 times.
I'm gonna go 7 for James Bond number.
Just to
so-
say, like, each time there's a cut in the trailer, if they're all together, I count that as one. Like, for a specific film. So, like, I will say, there's one where it's like he's driving the car, and then it cuts back to him on the touchpad, and then
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna
Alright,
go.
so every cut counts as one.
not
Yeah,
every
I might
cut,
go
but like,
higher
if
there.
they're
I'm gonna
together.
go with.
No, it's lower because I put the cuts together as one if they're
Oh,
all
okay. Then I'll go with 7.
And
I'm
your
sticking with
final
8.
answer is 8.
Yeah.
Okay. That goes to Henry.
No.
Yes.
Ever so slightly. You were actually both off by
Really?
quite a bit. It was
I
only
would have
4.
guessed 12, but
They only
was-
showed it
It was
once the entire time.
it was only 4 times. So
I really
yeah.
threw that away, man. I was 3-1 up. Fuck.
that goes to Henry. I don't know. Like yeah, I love doing that quiz. So that's it.
Something mind games.
I can only do it for like that or Goldeneye, by the way, which
Yeah,
because Tomorrow Never Dies and I didn't have the quiz before, so
What I'll do is as
Yeah.
well. I'll put if anyone listening hasn't seen it, I'll put a link to that in the description on YouTube. That's like literally our childhood in like a minute and a half or however long it is.
Enough.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's
Well,
like
always
voiced by
say-
Scott, a guy with like one of those, the most trusted accent in the UK is like the Scottish, like soft Scottish one. So it's like literally got that accent as well. So good, man.
Oh, it's a shame because I have like the complete DVD collection one, and it's like, well, I mean, we do.
you
but,
made a meme out of it and all with the
it's
no
the fact
when he's one will never be enough. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, I remember that. Anyway,
I do remember. I
Like,
think is that the one I bought, Henry? That DVD collection, and then
Yeah,
there was like an extra slot for Skyfall, I think, which I
it's
bought
an
and then
extra
added
slot
in.
for Spectre, I think.
Was it Spectre? Oh, all right.
Yeah. The thing is, as well, is like I really hate the intro of that one. I just want to just get this out while I can. The fact that it's not the same as the previous, obviously, because it's not the VHS collection, but
Yeah,
like
it's completely
it's some
different.
like Americanized, like the
Yeah.
ultimate James Bond DVD adventure, and it's just like
Uh,
so many It's like feels like I'm having like I'm getting brain damage watching it. But anyway,
So that's License to Quiz. 1-1 at the grand total stands at so far, and
you got
yeah,
the totals.
stay tuned for next week. The
Mhm.
one's not enough.
Yeah, convenient coincidence.
This is
Okay.
Tom's turned license to quiz into like a pub quiz, man.
It's turned it into
I
like
respect that a lot.
psychological torture, man. Like,
Yeah, me and Henry was like, now I'm realizing how lazy I was with the fucking with the quizzes, man. Tom's taking it to the next level. Man.
I thought I was being cruel with those like chess questions. This is like going above.
Yeah,
and
no, I respect that a lot. It's a good job.
yeah,
man.
yeah, true. That makes it more fun. Anyway, also in terms of counting things, this is the second Freud reference that Bond has made, where he says that Carver's developed an Oedipus complex.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he goes to his his building in Hanoi, and with a giant poster of him on the front.
Yep.
And they bump past General Chang, and then Wayland's like, "Wow, that's General Chang," like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme. Anyway, and yeah, he has like a little bit of a back and forth with Carver, who's like, "Oh yeah, Stamper can torture you with these epic tools. One of
Oh,
them,
that was really scary, man. Watching that
yeah,
as a kid, I was like, whoa, man. It's very good, like implied violence, basically, where you just like, just leaves it to your imagination. You're like, oh fuck, that's
especially
awful.
Yeah, and then I realized when he says, "Oh yeah, there are chakra points such as the heart or the genitals," and I'm like, "Which one of these tools is for that?" You know.
I think because there's like the hook one at the end. He's like, leave that for last. I reckon that goes in like the ball sack or something, man. Does anyone know? Oh, do you know what's funny, Henry?
Yeah, we're gonna do a bonus episode for Patreon where like we review the chakra torture like expansion kit.
Yeah, I think in Saw 6, Jigsaw actually says a similar thing because he goes, I think he says more than 7, but he says something like, oh, there are
There are
7
8
main
spots on the human body.
arteries, yeah, whatever. That like it's different, so it's not quite torture. I mean, it is, but it's like they'll cause you to die rather than it's like the main arteries. But do either of you have any knowledge on where those 7, like other than the heart and the genitals, where else that would?
the
Probably my
brain
lower
is
back given the amount of
Probably
issues.
like
Yeah.
your funny bone, maybe, or something
Your
like
funny bone.
It's
Yeah,
like-
maybe your kneecaps,
your
perhaps.
big toe, you stub it. What else? Yeah.
Yeah, your nose, perhaps. I don't know. Anyway, um, yeah, it would have been even funny if Stanford was like just black and he had no fucking clue what he was doing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, you can imagine him. He's like, okay, Bond's laid out on the table. He's like, bang, stab that in there.
yeah,
Like,
he kills him.
I think I'm doing this right. I've watched Coffin do it. Jam, kills him in
the
5 minutes. Gets
the really
nothing out of him.
the really grim moment in that is like when he's like, Dr. Kaufman's record was 52 hours. I'm hoping to break it, and it's like,
Yeah.
Oh, could you
Yeah.
imagine if like Dr. Kaufman said back, yes, Mr. Bond, I kept someone alive for 52 hours, yeah. Maybe I keep you alive for longer. Maybe you kill yourself.
do you reckon he got that record on Paris or not? I hope not for her sake.
No. I think Paris is a quick job. Although, yeah, maybe. Yeah, she'd have been. I don't think she'd have. Nah, I hope
No.
not. But
Well,
yeah, I mean that is pretty scary to think. Oh, 42 hours. Fuck me, man.
50,
That's like
52,
that's
52.
2 days. more than
52.
2 days.
Yeah.
Bloody hell, that's like what? More than 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck that.
2 days, Jeremy. 2.
I would
Anyway.
literally. I would just. I don't know. Well, I'd do what Bond does, which is escape. Get the
Yeah,
fuck out of there,
he
man.
There's a deleted scene as well where what's
Where
his
his
name?
heart is
No,
raised out
no.
of his chest like in
No,
Sense8.
when where like when the fight breaks out, like the first one who comes to defend Elliot Carver just before Stamper is Gupta when he gets like
Oh,
he
really?
gets like cards and starts throwing them at James Bond. They start like, implanting themselves in like this metal
Ooh.
thing James Bond's holding to
Yeah,
defend
because you
himself.
can throw cards like I mean that's like a trick that some people can do where they're like I mean there's a deleted scene of like Gupta chucking like practicing it like he's throwing
What,
them into a board.
playing
Like,
cards.
Yeah,
But,
playing cards
sharpened ones.
like when like in the Batman animated series when like Joker has like razor sharp cards and throws them at Batman.
It's
Oh,
just
that's
like
really cool. And
I
in
mean, even
Batman
if
Begins, where no, The Dark Knight, when he's got the things in his.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
a bit different. Yeah, it's a bit different,
um,
but still,
that's cool.
yeah, it is quite funny how they escape out the front and basically ride down the poster while like ripping it off the
Oh
wall.
yeah, that's so satisfying to watch.
It's
isn't
so like it's so great. That was a great idea by whoever
Yeah.
thought of it.
And it's quite
and-
scary, but you could see like again, like the acting is great because they both look terrified. They're both screaming.
yeah,
And you're
because they
like,
have to hope that the
what?
bot closes the
Yeah,
whole
literally, man. Like, and again, it is one of those moments where you're like, are they gonna make it? Like, what is about to happen, man? So yeah, and
thing is, like,
Bond, rare occurrence of Bond wearing plimsolls. So that's always fun to note.
how do you notice that? It's like when you notice the footwear in Spectre, I can't unsee the fact that Bond is
Oh,
like not
don't go
wearing
there, man.
socks with his shoes. Anyway,
If there was any character in the whole Bond series who would do that, it would be that Blofeld. Like no one else would have done.
well, just to show you, this is the real way they demonstrate he's a psychopath.
it.
Anyway,
Yeah, that's right.
Look, he
Sparkling
goes-
water as well, and all that.
Yeah,
You go-
hot Ribena.
yeah, my face.
No one does that, surely.
Man,
Henry and I do.
we had this argument already before. But
What?
anyway,
Who drinks
We-
hot Ribena?
Me and Henry.
yeah, we both do. We literally had this argument with you before. You've just forgotten. It's not on a frequent basis. It's when you have like a sore
when it's
throat or
a
something.
cold day, like
I mean, mulled wine is one thing, but hot Ribena is quite another, man. What, you add boiling water to it?
Yeah.
No, well, you can heat it up or add boiling water.
What did you like? Do you like pour pure Ribena and then heat it up? Like,
Just the syrup, like, yeah.
yeah, exactly. You just
Sugar
extract
rush,
pure
maxed
sugar
out,
from
man.
it. Anyway,
I'd need that to stay awake some days.
the syrup or like just hot Ribena.
Of it.
Anyway,
Syrup, probably.
hot beverages aside, they get into a bike chase, which I kind of hate because
Mm.
Wei Lin has apparently forgotten that Bond has the ability to turn his head. So she's like, "Yeah, let me sit on the other side of this bike on your lap. Don't get any ideas."
No, that was okay. I thought it was way more ridiculous when he's like, like when they're both driving it together. I
Yeah, that's
really
just, like,
I don't even want to begin to think how actually possible that is with someone. I mean, maybe with someone you practice with, like the twins from Octopussy, maybe they could
Yeah.
pull it off. But this is quite another thing, man. Like two strangers managing to like. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, both of them are like.
I mean, in a car park or an airport runway, maybe, but like in the tight streets
Wait,
of
I'm pretty sure as well. Like in China,
Chinese
they
slums.
drive in in China, they drive on the right side of the road as well. And in Britain, it's England, it's on the left. So they'd have been really conflicting on that as well.
Yeah,
So.
true. I mean, there
Cool
is no,
bike though.
but then again, there are no lanes in Hanoi. It's just like survival of the fittest. So
It is a cool bike though, and I did feel that was a little bit like Terminator 2 influence, maybe, but
maybe
maybe I'm reaching. I don't know.
it's just like, yeah, who has the right of way in this country? It's just the strongest. But
Yeah.
anyway,
But I did like their link up because
It's true.
she's like, oh, don't get any ideas, and then it's like, she's quite well, I mean, she's very capable. Obviously, she's like throwing them. And Bond's like, oh, nice one, like I would have done
yeah,
that.
true. He has to. He can't help but like be like, oh yeah, kind of respect.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah, they end up getting out of it. They drive over like some rooftops and all that.
Yeah,
Take
that's
that
kind of where it started
helicopter.
getting a bit like, oh, well, that's convenient. All these ramps, I mean, I guess
Well,
that.
no, not really, because it kind of makes sense in a lot of these
Yeah,
like South Asian communities and even in parts of China where they would have like these sort of like several story shanty towns. It makes sense just to have like communal areas on the roofs that you can just walk across, be like,
yeah, I
you
suppose
say
so.
hi
I
to your
suppose so.
neighbor.
But I mean, I was trying to think last night how much, or when I watched it, how much that bike would have weighed.
Yeah, that's true. And with two,
I mean, I'm not too sure. I know the average car is about 2 tons, so that bike with both of them on it got to be the best part of a ton. Going over like planks of wood. I'm really not convinced by that, but maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I
who
don't know.
knows? Who knows? But still, yeah, they take down a chopper like with a clothesline. So
No, not that quickly because they first jump over the helicopter,
yeah, of course.
which is a
Yeah.
cool stunt. I assume you both know how that was. I mean, it's like they just CG'd the propellers in, obviously.
Yeah, who did?
I mean, it was a bit dramatic for really like and unnecessary because I mean, I'd have just turned around and gone back the way I came, but yeah. Well, I don't know, and then obviously they make the jump and then they crash through the ceiling. And then there's this like random girl having a shower, which like the camera lingers on for way too long.
Yeah, she's just like, oh,
Yeah, exactly. She's just like
your average
okay,
day when someone
day in
crashes
the
through the
life,
roof of a bike.
And then they get. I don't know. I think it's really cool when again I have no idea how realistic or feasible this is, but when they use the chopper to actually like fan the crowd effectively, like and basically
That's
get
actually,
Bond stuck.
I've heard that that's not possible for a helicopter to fly at that angle.
So it's not the first time or the last time Bond does something unrealistic with a
Yeah,
heavy.
true.
It certainly
Well,
isn't.
one
Yeah.
thing, one thing that like kind of bothered me when I saw it this time was when they like destroy it and it goes into the building. You see like the dummies there, like
so
they just.
bad.
Oh
It's like one like story and none of them would jump out. I know it's dummies, but like.
Yeah, and the way it actually crashes into it's just like, oh, that looked a bit
Yeah, I guess.
you know.
Look, they managed it in a view to a kill. Just do a long.
Yeah, it
like,
looked way
rush.
better in a Beats to Kill. This is
I
just like
guess.
it's literally just like doing this. It's like a fucking PowerPoint slideshow animation,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. It literally, it's like they've got it on
Crash
a
into
rail.
building,
And
like
like I guess screw those like 10 or 15 people who are living in that part of the building it crashes to, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They'll just make another one next year. Like.
Yeah.
Anyway.
yeah, Bond
So
single-handedly accelerating the poverty in China. Yeah, it's great, nice one,
Yeah.
mate.
I mean, yeah. Then like the next. I mean, yeah, not much because they're still
Very,
handcuffed.
it is cool to be fair. How they uses the clothesline to like take down this helicopter. I think that is still very
Yeah,
cool.
that's quite.
Yeah.
But
Then they
still,
have
they
a sexy shower, don't they? And
yeah, they
some
get showered
pipe.
together. Yeah, they say pass the soap. So yeah, and then she handcuffs
Doesn't
him
drop it.
to the shower pipe so that she can like leave because she like picks the lock.
That was very cool. I was like that. In fact, I think obviously we're going to nominate it. That's the Sigma moment for me when she's like, "Oh, thanks, but I work alone." Handcuffs him to a pipe, just like completely
Yeah,
leaves him.
but then he
Like,
just rips the pipe out because it's like
yeah,
close
she's
to
a
I
the
think
Sigma female.
I think she just wants to get away really rather than just make sure he stays there
yeah,
forever.
she's probably got like
Oh, of course.
she's probably seen the file on him and like his body count, and she's like, yeah, I'm
And
not.
she's obviously like taking an opportunity to outsmart him as well, which is cool. She's great, and what I like is the very next scene is obviously she gets her own like action scene, which is really cool. I mean, this basically never happens in a Bond film, but I think it's great. I mean, I probably didn't appreciate it so much when I was younger, but now I'm like, oh, this is really great. Probably because I've just watched all the John Wick films, and I'm like, oh yeah, man. She's like kicking ass, man. It's like really cool to see.
Just beats the karate scene in The Man with the Golden Gun, perhaps.
Probably just edges it for me, yeah. So
Just a little bit.
yeah, barely.
Yeah, at
But
least she knowingly left Bond behind.
yeah,
Anyway.
she's very, very cool in this scene. Like, handling her own, that's important, obviously. I mean, Bond obviously comes in and like kind of saves a bacon.
What I don't understand about this scene though is like it's intercut with like scenes of James Bond walking in the street, and like he just like beats up random people. Like there's one on the phone, and he's like, oh, they just punches him, and then like there's one with like
he
a
fakes
cigarette.
having a lighter,
And
yeah.
then
He does it
he, like,
literally
puts his
twice in
fingers
this film.
up
Like
and
the
then
same, he has the
punches
same gimmick twice. Like a guy's looking for a cigarette lighter, and then he's like the first because right at the beginning he does it to that guy, right? And he's like filthy habit, and then this time he's like, it's quite funny the way he does it because he's like, because that is
Like a
how you
magic
would
trick,
like
you
if
know,
you're
like-
lighting someone else's cigarette and then he goes bang, punch him in the face. But yeah, it's just like some random civilian. It's like come on,
I mean,
man.
it must be some criminal he knows on the record. So
Yeah, what like essential? Well, how?
I saw you
essential-
steal that apple, bang.
Yeah, how essential
it's
was
like
that
a
to, like,
pirate film in Gotham.
to pulling off the mission? Like just punching that one random person in the street. Like
He's probably still
I don't know.
angry from. He's probably still angry from. Wei Lin like chaining him to the pipe. He's like,
Yeah, true.
takes out on this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Bond's
So,
anger
like-
management issues. Bang. just one bangs a random guy on the street. Like
Yeah,
feels better afterwards.
yeah. I mean, yeah. When they meet up again, like they still have a bit more. They have a bit more banter as well. I kind of like that. Bond actually sets off like the dragon flamethrower as well. Like
Yeah, it's because it's very reminiscent of like a Q kind of lab scene, but it's totally like turned on its head because what I like is the build up to it because she just starts moving these bikes and you're like, oh, what's she doing that for? And then all of a sudden, I mean, it is pretty faintly ridiculous, but still, like the whole thing turns into like the Chinese intelligence headquarters.
yeah,
But there is a
which
really
which
funny
is
line
open doors apparently, but
because obviously Bond is like a cunning linguist. He knows basically half the languages on the
he
world
can't
so
use
far
a
in
Mandarin
in the
keyboard.
Bond universe, yeah. But
It's
one of the ones he
insane,
doesn't
though,
know
like-
is Chinese, and I love that scene. He just looks at the key because he's like, okay, he tries to take charge. He's like, all right, I'll send the message. You get the weapons ready, and then he's like, oh,
Yeah, you
actually,
get like a shot
Yeah.
of the keyboard, and he's just like,
It's actually
Type.
insane though, because in Chinese and also Japanese, because they also use similar characters for one of the alphabets.
yeah, like a billion characters. On
They
one
like how they fit down some of that onto a keyboard is
Yeah.
like insane. Like, and it's really interesting. I know, like there'll probably be like one person who gets this. Like,
It's all
but
right,
I noticed on the numbers, like every single one apart from 10 was the exact same as the Japanese kanji for it. So I thought that was pretty cool, actually. So
nice.
yeah, I know. I just liked it, and it paid off that I like under all those.
Yeah,
that
all
must
the-
be
yeah,
satisfying.
years of
Probably like when
accounting
Henry
training.
sees something in German, or when I can read Cyrillic sometimes.
Exactly. Well, yeah,
Bets, man.
that's yeah. So they end up just doing a bit of chatting. Then they're like, "Oh well, we need to find Carver's stealth boat," and they have a bit where they go down to find a boat. I mean, is there anything else to say about any of the gadgets in that spot? I mean,
I like when he says always been a fan of Chinese technology.
Yeah.
It's so
Oh,
on the nose and so like
Yeah,
obvious,
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
just- but I just like
I think
that
Pierce
he-
Brosnan just has. I mean, I criticised GoldenEye a lot last, 2 weeks ago because of the one-liners and the writing wasn't that good. The writing in this is actually really pretty spot
Yeah.
on. I think there's not many lines where I'm like, oh, that was. I think this is just like everything's pretty much spot
yeah,
on.
I think as well with GoldenEye for him as well, it's like the weight of the expectations.
Yeah,
of it,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
really showing, and then in this he can relax a bit because it's like it's all right. I haven't been fired. I've still got the part, So they,
Yeah,
they,
yeah,
they
definitely.
like
Yeah, I think that's definitely apparent. But yeah, I mean, he's just got his quips and stuff, and he finds a Walther, which he's like, oh, I asked you to get me this.
He also
that's quite
he
funny.
also like I don't know if this is good or bad, but like he plays into a bit of the Chinese rip-off stereotype because he finds her gun and then like shows it. It's like, copy of Makarov blah blah blah, which is like some Russian gun or whatever, and and then later he's like, this looks familiar, and pulls out a really similar looking watch to the one he had in Goldeneye, and then it's like, and then it's like
Chinese
we've
knockoff,
and then
yeah,
and then
man.
she's like, we've made some improvements, and then it's like,
Yeah, this time
yeah.
it might just explode for no reason. Like some of
Cat-
those, like, well, it
catch
wasn't.
fire.
Yeah, Samsung's not trying.
Actually, that's quite funny. Like motif they did, where he's like, I mean, he's literally playing with fire at one moment as well. So that's a
Yeah.
good little moment. So yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, they find a boat which is not Kroll's grandson, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
Um,
Or like
they make a joke
Hit's
about her not
relative.
having a little red book, which is quite funny if you know
Yeah, that was good as well.
communist
And
Chinese
he's like, oh
people,
yeah, corrupt Western,
Decadent.
decadent,
decadent
spy.
agent. I think that's
Yeah.
such a great little back and forth, man.
Yeah. And he's
And,
like,
and he's like, oh well, what do they say about China, communists not knowing how to have fun, all that stuff. I think that's a really good bit of back and forth. It's very tasteful, I think. So that's good.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, they're having a good sort of chemistry with each other in this.
Yeah.
And then
And what's important to me is that it's not romantic either. I mean, there's a little bit of like, a little bit of eyes and stuff, but it's very like kind of
Professional.
standoffish. They're just like
Right.
and actually Bond starts becoming a bit of a simp man because he's like, oh yeah, we'll do this together, like
She's just like
so yeah.
complaining, fuck. Yeah, as well as yeah, the thing is they spend obviously some time passes. They're like, oh, this is the last cove, man. We need to
Yeah,
find this
it's
boat.
so
Oh
that's
yeah.
so
Oh look, there it
cliche.
comes around the corner.
Oh,
Can
isn't
you,
that
can you,
convenient?
that'd be so like bricking it though if you saw something like that turning
Oh,
the
yeah.
corner.
But I wonder if Bond was secretly hoping like, yeah, well, we can stay at her place tonight and then we can, do this
Yeah,
tomorrow.
he's not thinking about the mission at all. He's
Yeah,
just
exactly. He's just like, oh, we're waiting for his chance, man. And then he
yeah.
sees it come around, it's like, oh shit.
He's
Yeah,
just
he's like, oh, was I playing too into stereotypes? Oh,
Carver's
yeah, this is
massive
the one.
boat is like cock blocking him, man.
he's just
Yeah.
wishing that he was on like Mr. Scaramanga's like junk,
Oh yeah,
which was
wasn't there one like shot which looked
Yeah, I
exactly the
know,
same as those islands, right?
it did.
That must have
Yeah,
been the same thing.
Yeah, because it's still.
I'm
Yes,
not
It
sure
almost looked like
actually.
archive footage to me because it didn't quite fit with everything else. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe.
No, yeah. I mean, this is kind of comes up to the climax of the film when they find the boat
Mm.
and they split. So Bond lays a landmine, I think, at some point, some sort of bomb on the ship,
Well, it'd be a limpet mine, surely, if it's.
something like that.
Let's see.
Yeah, for those who have seen previous Bond films. Um, and he manages to fake his death because Stamp is thick as
Ah,
two short
that's
planks.
one of my favorite parts of the movie, man. That's so funny. Like, it's so like creative as well.
Yeah,
Again,
because
it's
he like
just like.
holds out the corpse. He also is like shooting like I like that shot of him like shooting backwards like with the whatever UMP or
Yeah.
whatever he's got in his hand.
Mhm.
And then he like holds up a corpse to get shot and then drops it in the water.
Yeah, it was great.
I
And
mean,
he fools Stamper as well, and then it has that great payoff. I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but when because Carver's like, oh great, he's dead, finally, and then he goes, oh well, so much for German efficiency.
yeah,
Great payoff, man. That's
the
just perfect.
single like reason for him to be German in this, other than the look.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, so I mean, basically, it boils down to Bond and Carver having this standoff where he has,
Well, not quite because they capture Wei Lin first, and then she
yeah,
starts like kicking her, and then Stamper like decides, okay, how am I gonna like, not like just like literally like smashes her head on the ceiling, and then like, yeah, you can calm down now.
yeah,
Well,
because
that's quite amusing. And
well,
then
'cause
Carver takes the Mickey out of her,
yeah,
like
she's taking the
Martial
Carver, and like
arts.
he does what like a lot of people are probably thinking, just like taking the piss out of like the
yeah,
martial
definitely.
arts part, because like I mean, I haven't studied them fully, so like
Oh, there's a
if
line
I
earlier as well, which makes Carver look like a real piece of shit, which is quite good. When he goes, "Oh, Bond, you have two possessions of mine, my red box and my wife." And it's just like the fact he
yeah, he's
referred to her as a possession. It's
Yeah,
like, yeah,
no,
okay, this
he
guy's
he
a
literally
scumbag.
he literally says two items that belong to me, and then he's like,
Oh no, he says two items in your possession. That's what he
I
says.
think later when he says, you can't resist any woman
Yeah.
in my possession, like,
Hmm.
and then I think before he says items, I might be wrong, but
No, you're right. He says items in your
something tells me
possession.
this
That's
guy's
why I got
bad.
mixed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just
Anyway.
and he's so like, yeah, but yeah, he's just like, oh, yeah, you can't, yeah, it's like that.
It is quite funny as well that Stamper, like, because a lot of the time Bond sneaks into places he really shouldn't be able to, and then like he really they actually address the
Yeah,
fact
there's a guy like
he's
slacking off,
slacking
like
off,
the security guard. He's there. He's
just
just
like
like he's tweeting instead of looking at his doing his job.
yeah,
And
but
yeah,
this would be you in the situation, man. He's just like, what the hell do I pay you for, and then like
yeah,
guy presumably gets offed off screen by Stamper.
yeah.
And yeah, so this ended up culminating in a standoff because then he's like, oh, turns out Bond's not actually dead, and he's got Gupta at gunpoint while he has
Oh yeah.
Wayland at gunpoint.
Oh
And Carver is like, oh, is everything set up by the way, Gupta? And he's like, oh, and he's like, yeah, you just have to push the button. And he's like, well, too bad, I don't need you anymore. And then he just kills him anyway,
yeah, that
which
was
is quite cool.
brutal, man. That was brutal. I'm like, wow, man.
I
And
think
again, it
that
just makes it's good because it just makes Elliot Carver into more of a piece of shit. You were just waiting for him to like,
Exactly.
says
meet his
like you've
maker.
you've outlived your contract, and then like
Yeah.
I feel so I don't know, like I think that's another reason why we should have had that earlier scene where he's like just has like a moment of realization and
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, and then there's like a one henchman who's trying to like sneak up on Bonds. And he just shoots him in the middle of like cover speech. And he's like, yeah,
yeah.
sorry, tune out for a bit.
Hmm.
Which is quite funny. And he's like, oh well, well, Bond, I have a backup plan. And Bond's like, oh yeah, so do I, and then sets off whatever explosives he had earlier.
Mhm.
Which
Isn't there a bit where Bond like walks around with two machine guns as well?
He has his machine gun. He has like the Walther PPK with the
Man,
silence on it.
They should have just gone full Arnie, man, full Rambo, and just having like
Yeah.
two AKs, man. Why not, man? While you're at it.
While it's really entertaining, I do think like it's a really massive departure from like the original character who's meant to be like
Yeah, I know you're not a
spy
fan of
work,
him
and she's
wielding massive.
not. Anyone can be an action hero. Like James Bond is James Bond, and he like is supposed to do certain things. But like I think this action scene's really good nonetheless. And
The thing is, I mean, I somewhat agree with what you're saying. I understand what you mean, but of all the Bond actors, and particularly in his era in the 90s, I think Pierce Brosnan is the only one who really pulls off like holding a machine gun, man. I
Can you
think
imagine Roger Moore holding a machine
no,
gun?
exactly. That's the thing.
well, he
and,
does in like Spy Who Loved Me. He like grabs one, and is like shooting people with it.
Oh yeah,
Do you remember?
and
then
Octopussy, to be
in
fair.
Octopussy, yeah, like when he goes down the banister.
But again, but
Yeah,
actually,
that's Roger
the
Moore,
specific
when he
moment
does
he
that.
does that in Octopussy, I remember his expression as he's firing it, and I'm like, yeah, yeah. So, so yeah, that actually, really proves my point, actually.
Yeah. Anyway, he yeah, so basically, yeah, this reveals the ship to the British Navy and the
Yeah.
Chinese, where they're like, oh, um, yeah, we're gonna blow this up instead of each other. So yeah,
And
they
it's
start.
funny how with this film, the plot is basically an amalgamation of what Moonraker, A View to a Kill, Goldfinger. It's like basically every Bond plot wrapped into one, but done in a very
Yeah.
creative way, which is basically the only way Bond has survived all these all these years. Which you have to appreciate.
Yeah, because this is great, because Carver has. I don't know if it's a nuke. I doubt it is, but it's some sort of cruise missile that
It
he's gonna
is,
fire
isn't
at
it?
Beijing.
So,
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry, but I have to get this out the way now. Like, when he dives into the water and gets Wei Lin out, the missile literally fires. Like he failed. You hear it. You hear it. Like you hear it going overhead when he's
No,
underwater.
but the rocket like starts firing like the jets, but he's put explosives on the back, which actually blows up the rocket before it can actually detonate its payload or go off anyway.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Well, but that's
Well,
really
we've skipped ahead a bit because
yeah, exactly.
obviously,
Yeah, he has a great fight with Stamper, who the thing is
Well,
that,
hang on. Before he
no
fights
Carver.
Stamper,
oh yeah, of course, because I'm like just rewinding it in my head.
come on.
Anyway, he gets to meet Carver, who's like, oh, by the way, this is my reason why I'm doing this, because not only do I get great ratings from people watching this war, but I'll fire this missile at Beijing. General Chang will conveniently not be there for the meeting. It'll wipe out all the leaders, and then he'll get to take over, which means that I'll get exclusive broadcasting rights in China for, I don't know, about 100 years. So that's quite That's not bad. That's not a bad plot, I think.
It's
For him.
extremely elaborate, like doing World War Three basically just to get like television coverage and walk
Yeah,
up
it
to
won't really be World War III though, because it'll end so
Well.
quickly. Because General Chang will save the day and get a peace prize.
Lot
Hmm.
of people will die. Brackets.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I
But then
think
obviously
yeah.
Bond gets to confront him at the end, and the bullet like saw thing comes and so good,
Yeah,
man.
good
The
thing.
Because
way
Carver actually has him at gunpoint, doesn't he? And then he's like, "Cool,
the way
let's
he
hope it
gets the
doesn't look
drop,
down here."
the way he gets the drop on Bond is so dumb as well. He
Yeah,
like hits him like, and then like Bond would like be
yeah,
incapacitated,
probably like bounce off of him, really
even like
easily.
momentarily from that. I think
I don't know. I reckon Carver's like quite like wiry, Like, oh
I,
yeah,
I
obviously when you couldn't have a fist fight with Bond, but I bet it would.
Yeah, so he dispatches of Carver with that diamond drill, which is quite cool, I think. Great use of it. I mean,
I heard
Oh yeah,
I
100%.
I
heard
mean,
some
how else are you going to dispose of him? Like, that's just the best
And
death.
the line's like, "Give the people what they want, bang!" And
Yeah.
and what is great about that line is basically like he's talking to the audience as well, because everyone's on side with Bond. Everyone wants this piece of shit to suffer, man, and that's the best way he can. He just
Oh,
like
it's so good.
gets chewed up by this like massive saw. It's so satisfying, man.
Yeah, I mean, it
Yeah.
And
also,
even I think that it doesn't even cut. And Bond's kind of a bit horrified at what he's done as well.
yeah, I mean,
So it
given the
literally
fact
like
that,
chews him into the computer behind him as well. It's like,
yeah,
whoa,
that's quite
grisly death.
something. That says
yeah,
quite
that
something
must be the
considering
most
Bond
grisly
watched.
death.
Yeah, considering that
Uh,
Bond watched Killer get eaten by a shark in License to Kill. So
I think
mm,
for Bond main villain deaths, that's death. Well,
yeah.
what about
either
that? What about that random Russian agent who gets like
no,
blended?
I'm talking about
Oh yeah.
I'm talking about main villain deaths. I think the
Oh,
only one that comes close is like Sanchez being set on fire, and
yeah, that's horrific.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
I don't know
But
which ones were.
I mean, at least this feels like one of our
Sean
Saw
Bean doing
episodes,
Sean
man. It's like
Bean.
which one lasts the longest? Yeah, being burnt alive isn't that great.
I've
That's probably
heard
the
Chewed
long
up. It is a very grisly death though. Like it is right up there for sure.
Well, moving on though.
And then yeah,
Gosling a big
Stamper also
The
meets
fight with
his.
Stamper. The things I don't get is some
I don't
debris
like it.
collapses on Bond earlier, right? So Stamper thinks he might be dead. But then when he gets Wei Lin, he's been told to kill her, but then he's like, oh, might as well use this to fuck with Bond a bit. But to him, Bond should be dead. So I don't know. Maybe he read the
yeah.
script prior. But
I
And
think
it's
anyway,
also
maybe he
like,
saw him get out.
How's Waylon incapable of escaping from that? That's the one thing I never understood. Surely she could like. I feel like by this point, I'm convinced enough by a character where she could find her own way out of that
yeah, exactly.
situation.
You probably like. I don't know.
He does
Tom, do you
have
have any
her.
idea
And
of
it's
how
just
that?
there's a bit where like Stamp is like 9, and it's like, oh, okay, that's a bit. I know he's German, man. You don't really need to like
Yeah, you
rub
don't
it
need
in
to
Yeah,
there.
sell it to us. It's like
you,
Dr. Kalman saying "yeah" after every sentence.
you
Yeah, but at
don't.
least Stamp is actually German,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah. It's like in Indiana Jones where they have them say like Chanel like 50 times, but no one ever says, "Oh yeah, go fast," like. But
Yeah.
anyway, um, yeah, no one like
Or
yells, "Oh
no,
no!"
no,
when
nothing
they're
will be as
dying.
bad. Nothing will be as like comical as like that couple in Octopussy who are supposed to be German that James Bond gets a lift with to the circus when he needs.
oh
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that's
Like,
that's like
yeah,
just playing
yeah.
stereotypes so much. It's hilarious.
that was funny though. That was like Roger Moore
That
comedies
is
they
like
could get
your
away with,
average
like
German.
trying to shove what's it, a bratwurst in his mouth, and all that basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like offering him beer, man, with like driving. They just don't give a fuck.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway,
They're like trying to offer him food as he leaves.
Yeah,
as well.
wearing those little green hats, and
yeah,
everything.
later, and the only thing they're missing is like yodeling through the window.
Yeah, and
Anyway,
we can guess their names. The guy's probably called Otto, and the wife's probably called
Gertrude.
Martha or something like that. Like
Yeah,
German names possible.
yeah. So yeah, and Stamper. I mean, the fight with him and Stamper is not really that good. I think.
Yeah, it's a bit anticlimactic, isn't it?
Yeah,
He gets.
the
I think
crux of
it'd
it
have
is
been better in the other way around if he killed Stamper then Steve Jobs, but I don't know.
Steve Jobs. You should call him Steve Jobs.
He's basically Steve Jobs. Man.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's funny. Even as a kid, I noticed the resemblance. Anyway,
Yeah, me too.
so yeah, and he gets killed because he's there when the rocket just explodes right in front of him, and Bond drops down and gives Waylon the kiss of life. And
Oh, this kind of like ruins the whole film in a way, man. I just wish they didn't do that. You
yeah,
know, she was such a good like. I mean, they had such a good like chemistry. And it's just like for that, and I'm like, It's just cringe, man. I mean, yeah, of course you got to have a
Yeah,
happy
when
ending,
when the
but
orchestra picks up as well to be like, yeah, guys, this is meant to be a good moment if you couldn't tell. Like,
yeah,
yeah, then
And
they
then
decide this culminates in a long-standing tradition of Bond seemingly loving being. He must have like a fetish for being lost at sea while shagging or something. Like,
yeah,
he's like, oh, well, we can stay here in the middle of the South China Sea with this burning wreckage. So,
yeah,
yeah,
that's definitely the least safe like flotation they've ever had at the end of a
yeah.
Bond film, which
Yeah,
is
you're right. He has
yeah.
done it a lot, hasn't he? I mean, it happened in Doctor No,
It happens in every Sean Connery film,
Thunderball.
like the first
well, not in
four
From Russia with
films.
Love. He was in Venice. It's not like he was
Yeah,
like,
but
you
he was
know,
still
Oh no,
like
floating.
he was
he's right though. Yeah, he was in the boat,
still
wasn't
on
he?
the water, yeah.
Yeah,
It didn't
And
happen in
Yeah, Bond's
Goldfinger,
like
but it was pretty
ultimate.
close. He was like on an island or
Yeah,
something.
Bond's ultimate
in
location would be like Point
Thunderball,
Nemo or something, you know, like
Seawater must be present. Salt water, yeah. That's
yeah,
his kink.
yeah. Well, at the end of the day, he is a seaman. So anyway,
On
that's Tomorrow Never Dies, basically.
that note, yeah. All
And
right,
yeah, we can
time
move
to
on to
do
the
the
ranking.
rankings. Bond actor. Number 1, Sean Connery. Number 2, Timothy Dalton. Number 3, Roger Moore. Number 4, George Lazenby. Number 5, Pierce Brosnan. I think it's time to move Pierce Brosnan up to 4th, isn't it?
Yep,
yeah.
Yep.
just no argument here.
Yeah.
Sorry, George, you're
yeah.
just too nice.
All right, and then Bond girl. This is going to be interesting. Oh, and I think we should separately rank.
Yeah, Paris Carver should be the girl, and then Wayland should be the ally, I think.
Oh, you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah,
You agree,
I
Tom?
think yeah, I think that can make
Well,
sense.
Jack Wade's kind of
yeah. Fuck
ally.
Jack Wade, man.
He's in like one scene or something.
Unfortunately, I want to agree with you, but unfortunately, he does kiss her at the end, so that kind of does make her a Bond girl. So, we'll
Yeah,
have to
but
rank them
still,
together.
I think
And I know
it'll be
it's
more
not doing the
perfect.
length of this list any favors, but let's go on with it. Bond girl number 1, Tracy. Number 2, Natalia. Number 3, Cara. Number 4, Triple X. Number 5, Domino. Number 6, Holly Goodhead. Number 7, Honey Rider. Number 8, Miss Anders. Number 9, Octopussy. Number 10, Melina. Number 11, Tatiana. Number 12, Pam and Loopy. Number 13, Aki and the wife, the nameless wife. Number 14, Pussy Galore. Number 15, Tiffany Case. Number 16, Stacey Sutton. Number 17, Solitaire. Number 18, Goodnight. Number 19, BB. That's some really terrible names in this list.
Yeah,
By the way, the wife's name is actually Kissy Suzuki.
Yeah,
So
that's right. Yeah, I
yeah,
remember it was
so,
named
yeah.
after a car.
Hashtag justice.
It was that or Honda, wasn't it? So yeah. All right. So
wow.
let's do Terry Carver. No, Paris Carver. Let's do her
Yeah.
first.
So who was fifth?
I think
Domino.
I think she
Oh,
goes
Domino.
just no. I think she goes between Domino and between Holly Goodhead.
No, I think she goes higher.
No, I think
I
I don't
think she's
think.
really good.
Oh no, are you putting them both together or individually?
No,
No,
separately.
The thing is that she's kind of a secondary Bond girl, so
Well, but
Yeah, so
nevertheless.
what? This still serves a purpose.
she doesn't get as much like.
But
to
Miss
do.
Anders is 8th, right? And she's kind of similar in a way of being that tragic sort of. So I would probably put personally Paris Carver maybe. I'm looking sort of below Natalia. There's Cara, Triple X,
That's
Domino.
way too much.
Below
Like
Triple X, I think, because
she
Triple X
goes.
has more of an involvement.
No, they all have more involvement though. So like the thing is, I mean, I don't know. I just want to cast your mind back to how
You've got
much,
like a Domino
how
like
much,
cutout poster or something.
how much character that what's her name Domino gets. So
That's true. That's true. That's true. Well,
Well,
she's
to be fair,
really
she's just consistent drip, so you know.
and
she's
like
fit. Yeah.
that
She's
and
fit.
like that's like
10
the amount
points.
the amount she gets to do as well in that film is like really stand out for that era of James Bond. Where like
Yeah, I'll
so
give
I
you that.
think
Still,
Yeah,
I don't
that's
think
true. But
it's
she still like fucks up, man. She drops the cameras. I mean, Terry's
but she
interesting because
kills
she's
Largo,
like.
man. Like you don't want to
yeah. It's only a
Yeah,
half.
exactly. Terry was killed, man. Like, and she was also like, just. And I think what she adds to the film and to Bond's character is something that basically almost none of these names have ever done. That's why
Yeah,
she's so high up for me.
Yeah, but that's because that's not really her own. Like
All
I
right.
know,
Well, what about below Triple X, above Domino, or below Domino? What should we go with?
I think there's a very big dotted line between Domino and Holly Goodhead.
Yeah, for
Really,
sure.
I would put her above Domino. That's my spot, honestly.
Yeah, I think I agree. To be fair.
right? for the sake of keeping
Paris
the peace.
Carver. Yeah, keeping the episode length down.
Yeah,
And also now Wei Lin, who I think.
I think I just put her just above Paris.
I don't think so, really.
It's
I think it's
tough one, man. I really do like her, but
she's more of an ally than like a
yeah, I see where you're coming from, Tom. But unfortunately, he does kiss her at the end, which kind of ruins it all. So
That's yeah.
it does, man, because they go through all this like, oh, don't get any ideas, blah blah blah, and all this stuff, and then it's like, oh, okay, just like
They kiss because they basically have to in the script. So
yeah, exactly.
that's the
So that's
impression.
kind of it feels forced, which
I just
kind of
ignored,
undoes all the hard work in a way.
just ignored that really.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, ignoring that, yeah, she
You
has some
can't just
pretty cool
ignore it,
moments.
but still.
Yeah, she has some cool moments. I don't know. Yeah, maybe
I really
below
hate that bike
Paris
chase,
actually.
though. That's the thing.
I remember Paris a lot more than I because you get lots of
Yeah,
like
I agree.
you,
I
you
agree.
get
Did
a
you
lot
know,
more
actually,
like you
Waylon
get
was supposed to have her own sort of spin-off series after
yeah I
this? At least
know
they were thinking about it. So
Oh,
they
that'd have been
didn't
cool.
they didn't think she could carry her own series though so
yeah, what a
She's proven
terrible.
wrong. Yeah.
That aged
All right.
really poorly.
Well,
So
they
then,
have lot they have
where are we going to rank her then?
I'd just put her above Paris, honestly.
she
Above or
goes
below Paris,
she
really.
goes at least below Paris because like
Yeah.
there's lots of actiony Bond girls like at this period so like I don't think
Yeah, but
really
she's the best of them. So
yeah she's the best of them but
okay.
Sadly,
Well, okay. Waylon. Okay, so now fourth Triple X, five Paris Carver, six Waylon, seven Domino. Okay. I mean, they're both good. That's what we're saying. Okay, now this is going to be interesting. The villain.
Ooh.
So Max Zorin, number one. Blofeld, Donald Pleasance, number two. Goldfinger, number three. Telly Savalas, Blofeld, number four. 006, number five. Fran Sanchez, number six. Hugo Drax, number seven. Scaramanga, number eight. Number nine, Kamal Khan. And Orlov, number 10, Dr. Kananga. I'm going to leave it there because I'm sure that we're going to put Elliot Carver somewhere up here, right?
I
I
think put him
think
just below Hugo Drax.
Really? I thought you'd go higher.
I think he goes a bit lower than that because he's a bit
Hmm.
for all his like his like speeches and stuff. He is a bit like one dimensional, which is like
That's true.
bit
That's
of.
true.
I think he goes. I was actually thinking about around Dot to No territory because at least
Really?
Dot to No has a really good like atmosphere.
Doctor Knows 11th. But no,
So-
I was actually, I thought we'd put him way higher. I was thinking around 006 territory, to be honest.
Thing is, even 006 is a bit one dimensional when you think about
Yeah,
it. 'Cause
exactly.
he's like oh well the same
I mean,
3 minutes you gave
personally,
me. And I
I
was
know
like,
Henry won't like this, but I'd certainly put Elliot Carver above Fran Sanchez.
But
no.
that, a massive boner for Fran Sanchez, but still.
Well, okay, we're quite conflicted here. Well, number five is
I think
006, number six is Sanchez, number seven is Drax, number eight Scaramanga, number nine Kamal Khan, all of number 10 Kananga, number 11 Doctor No. So
I think
I'd fight
I'd
to
have to
put him sixth, to be honest, above Fran Sanchez.
I'd put him below Hugo Drax, honestly, because I think if you to compare him with Sanchez, I think I like the way that Sanchez is used in that film more because like Bond is kind of like gaslighting him basically into like killing his own henchmen. But at the
Wait,
True,
same time,
that's
he's a
true.
guy you do not want to like mess with. So
below
Well, then
you're
it comes down to Tom. Would you put him above or below Hugo Drax?
definitely below. If he's still going above Scaramanga, he definitely I think he goes below Scaramanga. Scaramanga's so like
Hmm.
iconic and so
it's
like
just because he's played by Christopher. I think Scaramanga is
Yeah.
kind of overrated.
He's a
Honestly.
bit overrated.
I don't think he's overrated.
It's just
'Cause
like, yeah, guys, it's Christopher Lee, man, and then like,
no,
just
it's not because of that. It's because he carries the film more or less. Actually,
yeah,
do you
but he
know?
can't carry the film. It's still a pretty bad film
I
overall.
don't.
How'd you spell Elliot?
It's a guilty
Oh, like that.
pleasure.
Okay. All right.
It's the
All
real
right. So Elliot
challenge
Carver
here.
is going in at eighth, which is fairly respectable, I suppose. Unlikely to be displaced. Henchman, and we're going to rank Stamper amongst number one, Jaws, number two, Oddjob, number three, Red Grant, number four, Necros, number five, Mayday, number six, Boris, Xenia, and Arimonov. Number seven, Gobida, the twins. Number eight, T, He and Co. Number nine, Bunt. Number 10, Dario. Oh, yeah, okay. Number 11, Locke and Eric. Number 12, Winston Kid. Number 13, Knick Knack. Number 14, Fiona. And number 15, Hands.
I think he
Super
just goes
Hands.
barely above Knick Knack.
Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think
Maybe
so.
actually no, below Knick Knack, because at least Knick Knack has a funny, like, an interesting relationship with the villain.
Yeah, that's true.
Knick-Knack's a
Actually,
joke, man. I think
Yeah,
he's
they
down
probably
with it.
play
no,
for
no, no.
laughs.
Nick almost kills Bond. Remember when he has the pitchfork and he's about to? I
Uh,
think, I think he's.
Yeah, that scene is something I'd rather forget, honestly. So.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
the problem with it. I'd rather forget most of his scenes. So yeah, Stamper's like, yeah, very
I mean,
one-dimensional.
he
I guess.
exists for the joke about German efficiency as well, so that's given.
I respect.
He's good. Yeah, he's not bad. This is where I put the dotted
Yeah,
line.
he's
Actually, below
like
Stamper.
yeah, he's literally like the stereotype Chad meme as well. Like he
Yeah,
earrings like the
exactly.
bathing lots of
Jawline and all that.
Kaufman
Yeah.
as well.
Do you think that's his natural hair color, or did he bleach it? Because it was very blonde.
I don't really care, honestly.
All right. All right. Well, Stamper goes in at 13th, then below Winter Kid and above Knick-Knack. Well above Knick-Knack. All right. Okay. The car slash vehicle. We're going to rank the BMW 750 against number 1, the Aston Martin DB5, number 2, Aston Martin V8 Vantage, number 3, Little Nelly, number 4, the Tank, number 5, the Lotus, number 6, the Tuk Tuk, number 7, the Croc Sub, number 8, the Mini Plane, number 9, the Moonraker Boat, number 10, the Gondola, number 11, the Citroen, number 12, the Moon Buggy. Where are we
I
putting?
think this just goes just above the Moonraker boat because it's got cool gadgets, but the car itself is just boring to
No,
look
fuck
at.
no, man. It has such a great
I actually
scene.
agree with Henry.
Really, I put it
Yeah,
above. I don't even put it
it's.
above the Lotus personally.
I know it's a bit. No, no, no. The
It's the
Lotus is
look at it's
really
like what would
iconic.
you want as well? Like which one of these vehicles would you want out of these? Like
I would actually prefer the BMW. It's a bit more low key, personally, for day to day use.
I don't have a bias for German cars, unsurprisingly, but still,
Or why would you?
actually, no, surprisingly.
Yeah.
But
I would put. Yeah. All right. Well, I put the BMW above the Lotus, but you guys are saying below the Mini Plane and above the Moonraker boat.
yeah,
Yeah.
Really? I mean, for the amount of gadgets and stuff it does, man.
Yeah, but
but then yeah,
lots
The
of
amount
the
of
other ones
comedy
have
they get out of it
gadgets.
as well.
specific ones that don't make sense that it has in it too.
Yeah, true. Like with that.
True. I mean, we do have the Tuk Tuk 6th, so yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tuck
that's
Tuck is
so
base,
iconic.
so
Well, I personally have the BMW way higher, but all right, I'm outvoted. M is. Oh, why is Judy Dench third?
because the other two are
She
still
only
good.
had
It's just
one
she didn't have
film.
much to do in the previous film.
All right. Well, Bernard Lee's number 1, 2, Robert Brown number 3, Dame Judy Dench. Can we move her up to 1 now?
Yeah, she just like shoots up to one with the amount of good lines she
Yeah.
has in this.
Good. Glad we're agreed there. Judy Dench, is it with a Y or or an I?
And I,
Oh, you wrote it with a Y. Huh.
Judy Dench.
Or is it? Can one of you look that up while I read out the
But
rankings for Q? Number 1, Desmond Llewellyn. Money
when he's
Penny.
got stiff competition, you know.
Yeah, Money Penny's number 1, Lois Maxwell. Number 2, Caroline Bliss. And number 3, Samantha Bond.
And
It's
number
an
eight
That's
is
I.
not
It's
changing.
an I.
Yeah,
Yes.
thought so. Okay. The ally
That's
slash
correct.
Felix Leiter. Do we have an ally? It's Jack Wade again, isn't it?
Yeah, she
Oh,
just keep Jack Way where he is. Or
Yeah,
just
he's already 13th. Yeah, no need to change that. Gadget. Okay, now I know the main gadget in this film is the phone, which is a good gadget. But I want to nominate that like saw bullet thing because Bond does use it in the end. So can we do that?
It's very stretching the definition of gadget, but
It is a gadget. It's remote controlled. It fucks things up. It's Bond uses it. That's
yeah, it
basically
is the
a
most
Bond gadget.
memorable thing from this film, I think, in terms of gadgets. So
The current rankings: number 1, the dart gun from Moonraker; number 2, the Live and Let Die Rolex; number 3, the attaché case; number 4, the sniper rifle from License to Kill; number 5, the keyring stun gas; number 6, the cigarette, which should be higher; number 7, exploding pen, should also be higher; number 8, the acid pen; number 9, Odd Job's hat. Why is that so low? Number 10, the ring camera; number 11, the rebreather; number 12, Wolf PPK; number 13, mousetrap. You have to forgive me, listeners. This is the first time I've actually looked at the rankings for a while, and I'm a bit
Where actually is? Sorry, where's the attaché case again?
third.
yeah,
Oh, that's deserved, I think.
That's fair. Yeah, of
I
course.
think that this should go above the acid pen.
Yeah, I think so.
Very
Yeah.
very iconic, but
All right, I don't know what to write for it. Saw bullet.
just do the like it's like this is like a saw they use for like undersea drilling. So
Is it?
call it
Oh.
this. You could call it the seesaw, James.
All right, I'm gonna call it the bullet saw. All right, now the
The
theme.
triple saw.
Yeah. The theme song. Number 1, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Number 2,
we-
View to a Kill. Number 3, the James Bond theme. Number 4, Live and Let Die. Number 5, License to Kill. Number 6, The Living Daylights. Number 7, Goldfinger. Number 8, You Only Live Twice. Number 9, GoldenEye. Number 10, The Man with the Golden Gun. Number 11, For Your Eyes Only. Number 12, Never Say Never Again. 13, Thunderball. 14, Nobody Does It Better. 15, Moonraker. 16, Diamonds Are Forever. 17, From Rush with Love. 18, All Time High.
Well, this is a special case because, and this is not going to be the last special case I know in terms of songs that have films that have more than one song. This this obviously has Tomorrow Never Dies, but it also has Surrender. So
What's Surrender?
It's at
Surrender
the
plays at
end.
the end. Tom should know this one too, I
I'm
think.
not
It
gonna
sounds the
sing
same
it.
as Tomorrow Never Dies. I thought it was the same song, but
That's a
different.
different song.
Oh, okay.
What do you,
Um,
Tom? I remember because you were a fan of Surrender, weren't you?
I used to be, but like not really.
I'm going to look it up. I don't think I've heard it.
Wow.
So,
We not even rank Surrender on this list as well.
no.
Nah.
Really?
So
Well,
tomorrow,
what happens to when we get to Spectre?
the only
because
exception we'll
you
make for that rule, Henry, is Spectre. Don't worry. So, where are we going to put Tomorrow Never Dies? I'm thinking maybe.
I
Well,
think
it's got to be
below.
around GoldenEye, doesn't it? I think.
I think it goes below Thunderball because it's like a bit.
Ooh, that's
Wow.
hard.
The other ones the other ones above it
This
are
is
all
better
like
than Golden.
iconic. So I think like
What do you think, Henry?
I think this is better than GoldenEye. You know.
Yeah, I think it's around that area as well.
well, I've put my opinion on record, even though I'm outvoted.
Yeah.
So
That's what
put
it's
it.
all about. Well, the man with the gold. Well, it's definitely above that. GoldenEye,
Where is GoldenEye, by the way?
9th.
It's above
And
that.
it's above the man with the golden gun. So that's the firmly dotted line there, I think. Tomorrow Never Dies would go. I don't really care. I think, yeah, all right. Well, since Tom weighed it down, I think it has to go 10th then, below GoldenEye. Otherwise, I'd have probably gone above
I'm
GoldenEye.
not
But
gonna raise pitchforks over this. So
yeah. Oh, okay. The opening. Number 1, the Spy Loved Me. Number 2, Goldfinger. Number 3, Octopussy. Number 4, Moonraker. Number 5, GoldenEye. Number 6, The Living Daylights. Number 7, A View to a Kill. Number 8, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Number 9, The Man with the Golden Gun. Number 10, From Russia with Love. I mean, it's surely going about in somewhere in here, right?
surely it'll go above View to a Kill, right?
I think
I
it
think
goes.
It doesn't
View
get
to Kill
interrupted by the
slightly
Beach
better. Think
Boys.
about the music in A View to a Kill for
It doesn't get
starters.
interrupted by the Beach Boys.
It is.
So
No. The A View to a Kill's opening is like the earliest memory I have of James Bond. So
Yeah,
like,
and it's
yeah,
Snow
same
Job,
here. But
Henry.
I'm
Come
not.
on,
I'm
man.
not getting nostalgia bias.
yeah,
Like,
we use that in like.
I
I
used to
am.
fall asleep in Timothy Dalton's
I
film.
think I think actually I think actually it goes below From Russia with Love because that has like that's really good for. What do you mean what? Like that's really good for like setting up Red.
Yeah, but what
Rum.
about The Man with the Golden Gun? It goes above that, doesn't it?
Well, I think they should be changed a bit, but like
Yeah. But
I
what
think
is the opening for The Man with the Golden Gun? I can't remember. Oh yeah, Scaramanga. Yeah, that should be changed around. Actually, let's do that right now. Let's put The Man with the Golden Gun.
we'll do all the changing.
No, I'm doing.
momentarily.
I'm over. We have. That's obscene, man. The Man
yeah,
with the Golden
like
Gun's going below From Russia with
the
Love.
most obscene thing was when Henry said that Man the Golden Gun was better than From Russia with Love on this round.
Well, I don't really disagree.
Man, I was like, I
Um,
must have been on something. Who knows?
So Tomorrow Never Dies. The opening
the
goes
film
below A View to a Kill and above On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Can we say that maybe?
The film itself.
No, the opening.
Yes,
Obviously not.
this goes above View to a Kill. I swear.
I think
No,
it's below.
All right.
And the
All right.
payoff on that is, being. But it's not where like Bond gets in bed
Does it
with
go
like
above On Her
someone who's like
Majesty's
a
Secret
third of his
Service?
age.
You know, with George Lazenby's dimple chin and cigarette.
I think
No, come on.
the
In A View
intro
to a
for
Kill,
George
he's like
Lazenby is really cool.
he's like bedding someone who's like 20.
No, Henry, you're not winning this. Don't. There's no point dying on that hill, man. Me and some. I mean, I'm
Man,
surprised it's actually
I'm
7th.
putting the case
Tom and I
out
have
there.
done well to control ourselves, putting it 7th, man. So
I'm putting the case out there to the people. This is not about you.
whatever. Yeah, it is. Sigma moment. I'm nominating Waylon. I work alone. I mean, has anyone got anything else or?
The difference
I
between
think
genius and insanity is measured only by success.
Oh, what do you think, Tom? Your seat now. Which way does your thumb point?
I think this is really difficult. Actually, I think we used to take the mick out of that success and insanity thing, like
I
when we
don't,
were younger.
to be honest.
Did you?
I do.
Oh,
Yeah, we did
well,
because it was like so obviously like set up. But I think it does kind of is all right. I think yeah, let's put that one because it goes with like whole like grind of Elliot Carver trying to start a war just so he can get like better ratings, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that whole
Elliot Carver
thing-
is the kind of guy who would tip his landlord, I think. He's certainly in his like paperboy days, man, just to grind harder. He's like, yeah, let's like push myself a bit
Okay.
further.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in that case, the current rankings: number one, I think it's gonna be long. Goldfinger, Own the Club. Number two, yeah, a convenient coincidence, Max Zorin. Number three, Backgammon. Number four, you missed Mr. Bond, and did I? Number five, Red Grant. Number six, Blofeld Extortion. Number seven, Doctor No. Number eight, Sean Connery giving the thumbs up in The Rock. Number nine, Timothy Dalton's Bond. Number 10, So Does England. Number 11, Launder It. Number 12, Natalia versus the Computer Salesman. Number 13, Tracy's Already a Countess. Number 14, Scaramanga. Number 15, Eric. Number 16, Blofeld Prepare My Battle Submarine. Number 17, David Niven. Number 18, Names for Tombstones Baby. Number 19, King and Country. Number 20, Q from Never Say Never Again.
David Niven always kills
wait.
me.
What happened? What happened to prepare my bath of sub immediately?
Yeah, that's
That's there
16.
somewhere.
I like start laughing.
Where
at that randomly.
I think this might go above or below
Doctor No.
maybe below Doctor No.
I think below Doctor No as well.
Okay,
Because-
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
So Carver, genius, insane genius. And what I like most about the line is it's kind of true as well.
Yeah.
All right,
Right.
and then finally we're going to rank Tomorrow Never Dies against number one, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Number two, Goldfinger. Number three, Octopussy. Number four, License to Kill. Number five, Moonraker. Number six, The Living Daylights. Number seven, The Spy Love Me. Number eight, You Only Live Twice. Number nine, GoldenEye. Number 10, A View to a Kill. Number 11, The Man with the Golden Gun. Number 12, Live and Let Die. Number 13, Doctor No. Number 14, From Russia with Love. Number 15, The Rock. Number 16, Thunderball. Number 17, Never Say Never Again. Number 18, Few Eyes Only. Number 19, Diamonds Are Forever. Number 20, Casino Royale. Where is Tomorrow Never Dies going here?
What's below You and Live Twice?
GoldenEye.
Yeah, just put this above GoldenEye.
I've since
Okay.
changed a bit on that. I like GoldenEye more, but if you want to,
Yeah, I'm a bit torn as well, Tom. I
Here's
think,
a swing the axe.
because it's a bit like it's not bad for entertainment, but it's just
yeah, I
It's
think
not
GoldenEye is slightly
cringeworthy though
better.
at multiple points.
it's
like in
kind of
GoldenEye.
like the thing is with GoldenEye, there's like the highs are like more high than the highs.
Yeah,
in this
yeah,
film,
yeah,
But
yeah.
the
Yeah,
lows
but
are
the
lower.
lows are like the
Yeah.
the soundtrack is like pain and suffering.
Yeah,
for
but
most of it.
That's
You
just
got
like a
really bad
And
dialogue.
I think GoldenEye just does edge it. To be fair, it's legacy as well. I mean, personally, I do think Pierce Brosnan is better in this film, but Tom's right. It's got higher highs and lower lows than this, and I think the high highs just edge it above. And that means that Tomorrow Never Dies would just go above View to a Kill as well. So
I
we're all
don't know.
I'd-
pretty fine with that.
I'd sooner
My
watch
mission
it
has
to
already
kill,
been
to be
accomplished
honest,
with
but,
Timothy Dalton, so you know.
Yeah, I know.
Nice.
I'd sooner
Alright.
watch A View to a Kill, to be quite honest, but just putting that out there for all the A View to a Kill haters.
Yeah. For all those people that put it at the bottom of IMDb.
Oh, now you're making me think, Tom, because I do love A View to a Kill. It is like an enjoyable watch.
There's Zoran. Does anybody else want to drop out? There's a convenient.
Yeah,
Yeah,
literally
well,
the
just
Jack
Christopher Walken then, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think Tomorrow Never Dies is, to be fair, an objectively better film, isn't it? So
Yeah, but we can't.
let's
We
put
can't.
it 10th.
Oh, hang
We
on,
ca-
we forgot to mention one thing in Tomorrow Never Dies. They have discovered that slow-mo's a thing, so
Yeah.
Oh,
they use
Cre-
that too often, but
I think they did use it in GoldenEye, to be fair.
yeah, true.
Did
But
they?
there's a really funny bit with Wei Lin, like she's like got these two machine guns, she's pointing them like either way away from the henchmen.
Yeah,
and
so
somehow
cringe,
killing
man.
them.
No. The most cringe was when they were when they evacuate the submarine at the beginning, and they're like, "Abandon ship," and then
Yes,
they're like,
that's
"Oh,
slow-mo people
running!"
face.
With sparks
There's
flying,
there's
so
like
cheesy,
the
man.
choir as well. That goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just play the music.
All you're missing is like
Gandalf,
the band on the Titanic deck, like at the top. That's all you're missing, isn't it?
Yes.
So yeah. All right. Well, then Tomorrow Never Dies 10th below GoldenEye, above View to a Kill. Is that pretty fair.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
We're like the sole outpost reviews for Kill though, which is
Yeah, but I'm proud of that.
Definitely. Well, that's all I have to say, honestly. So,
and other films as well, like flipping Octopussy.
any
Good,
further
yeah.
comments?
Nope.
Well,
Nope.
ladies and gentlemen, that was Tomorrow Never Dies, and we will be back next week with The World Is Not Enough. Same bat time, same bat channel.